I remember Professor John Mack sitting at my house when he had the sample in his hand, never handled it. It was in the bag. It was always in the bag. It never was taken out of the bag. No one ever touched it. And I remember him holding it and actually looking at me in the eyes and saying, I truly believe this is an alien hair. And eventually I pushed away. And as I pushed away, that's when I looked and I got the whole image of her. And there was this blonde female, milky white skin. As I'm looking at her hair, it didn't look like human hair. Like our human hair's a bit thicker, it fills the hair. This thing looked see-through, almost like fishing line. The shape of her head, she had huge cheekbones, perfect nose, because her face was a little bit longer. So it suited her. Her lips were normal mouth, normal lips.
Her eyes?
The eyes caught my attention. But her eyes looked, 2 to 3 times bigger than a human eyes, and the most beautifulest blue I have ever seen. When she pushed me towards her breast the 3rd time, and I'm trying to push away, I couldn't do it. I panicked. I couldn't breathe. I was struggling to breathe. I took it like I pinched with both of my teeth. I just sort of pinched her skin, and I did feel something hit the back of my throat. It was like I had just drank acid and it was burning the back of my throat so bad. But I looked at her and she was in complete shock. That's why her eyes opened up so wide. I just started coughing, and I'm looking down, I'm coughing my guts like it was just burning me. I felt them talking, and it was telepathic. This isn't like the last time. He's done this wrong. I saw 2 hairs. I decided I'm going to go get a plastic bag, stick the 2 hairs in there.
What comes from this is DNA testing.
That's right.
And this is the Invisible College.
That's right. Bill contacted me and he said, mate, we've got some results here that aren't adding up.
It's 0 in the population. It's 1 in billions. This is probably the most important case. And if we can figure that out, I think that's, for me, one step closer to the whole world waking up to this.
Yeah.
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 Hello, this is James from Sacramento, California. When I was 9 years old, I was out front of my house with my dad and my little brother. We were staring up at the stars, and my dad was, teaching us some dad lesson. And as we're sitting there watching the stars, we saw what looked like a meteorite, a trail, a white light, shoot across the sky about 300 feet above us. And then it stopped dead in its tracks, sat there for a second, expanded, lit up the entire neighborhood like a atom bomb, and then disappeared. But I remember as a kid, right after that, having several dreams of being operated on by these tall, white doctors.
Back in the SCIF with Mr. Khoury. Peter, where we left off yesterday, we were just coming up on like the juiciest stuff, in my opinion, in the world of ufology, in the world of UFOs and aliens and possible, NHI encounters. So we left off, we talked about the 1988 stuff, talked about, your family having witnessed that, telling you only later in 2004, I think it was.
That's right.
And then, but in 1992, 4 years later, something else would happen, something entirely different as far as UFO or alien encounters are concerned in general, from what we gather. Obviously, there's some similar cases that have, that people have come to you with, and we'll get into that as well. But this is completely new. Can you talk us through what exactly happens and how this comes about?
Sure. 1992 started off being a terrible year for my family. In March of 1992, my eldest brother, his wife was murdered. It was a murder-suicide. So, yeah, it shocked us to the core, and it was hard to deal with. with a lot of, people making accusations and so on, and trying to blame the family for it when it was clear and cut what happened. The guy killed her and killed himself. That was March. And then a couple of months later, Vivian, it was in February, Valentine's Day. And we were sitting in the car. She was going on holidays for 2 weeks. She was going to go a week ahead of me, and then I was going to follow her and meet her in Queensland to follow a week later. So we were sitting in the car discussing it. I had my back to the door, to the driver's door, just leaning against it. She was sitting in the passenger seat and had her back to the door as well. So we're facing each other, just talking. And just out of the blue, something just said to me, look up in the sky. And I just had the window open. So I just leaned my head back and just had a look up in the sky. And I couldn't believe what I saw. It was this round, like I'd say softball or baseball size light, just a sphere, bright white, like ice white light. And it was moving from north to south and headed over the Southern Cross. And as soon as it got to the top star in the Southern Cross, it stopped. Like it was moving at a rapid speed, and then it just stopped on a dime. I couldn't believe it stopped so quick. And it hovered there for a few seconds. And then I said to her, you got to have a look at this. So we stepped out of the car and we were watching this, and I had a cardboard in the back seat. So I got it and folded it up and sort of, made a little telescope so I can zoom, just to focus on that light source. And while it was sitting there, it shot a beam of light, and it was like a thick white beam of light. And then it appeared at 2 places at once, and it disappeared from point A. And then it was at point B, shot a beam of light down to another star. This is all on the Southern Cross. And it'd do that, and it'd disappear from the point of origin. And then where it appeared, it'd shoot this beam of light and appear at 2 places and then disappear from the point of origin. And it did this erratically. It wasn't just like a, slow pattern. It was very quick. And then, 180 degrees, it was making 90-degree turn. It was just all over the place, but always in a triangular formation, back and forth, back and forth. There was no pattern to it. And it blew us away. Like we were looking at something I've never seen any jet, plane, any technology that the military have.
This is during the day?
No, this is 8:20 at night.
As in the evening? Okay.
Yeah, 8:20 at night.
The sky is pretty dark, so it's just
it was dark, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, we stood there watching this, and as we're watching it, she said to me, it looks like a war with the stars, because she thought it's firing something, And I said to her, no, it looks like it's searching for something, because I thought it was a beam of light and it's searching. But then later on, I realized that it was moving so quickly, but traveling on that beam of light and appearing at 2 places at once, and always disappearing, appearing. But you could see it at 2 places, then it'd disappear, and then shoot another beam of light. It'd be in 2 places again. And we watched it, I reckon, about 2, maybe 3 minutes. That's a long time watching this thing. And then it shot back up to the original point above the top star, and hovered there for about 10 seconds, and then it just shot straight up into the sky like you couldn't even see it. It's just so quick. And we're sitting there just, trying to contemplate. And we actually said to each other, tomorrow we're buying a newspaper. We're going to listen to the radio station. Because,
see if anybody talks about it.
Oh, we thought half of Sydney would have had to say, like what we saw, it was better than any fireworks display on New Year's Eve or anything.
And this is prior to recreational drones. Like, people have to understand this is 1992.
Yeah.
People weren't just flying around drones like they are today.
I never saw a drone back then, and until recently seeing drones. And I did work at the Opera House for a while, and they have drone shows there. So, it was nothing like, a drone could not do what that thing was doing. And so the next day we anticipated, we're going to see it in the papers. We're going to see it on the news, on the radio. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I cannot believe how that display didn't. And you know what? Maybe people did see it, but they just didn't report it. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't report it to anybody either.
Yeah, there's a big chance that other people saw that too. If it was,
There had to be,
Yeah.
but I thought they'd at least call a local newspaper. That was February 1992, and I think that played a big role in her believing,
what's about to
subsequently
happen.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that helped to take it on board a lot easier.
So that was February, and what happened to you was in July, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And as I said, March, my sister-in-law we had that incident and lost her. And so my family was going through a lot at the time. And Vivian and I had got married in 1990, and then in 92. So we're in our house. We're living in our house that I live in now. There was one incident that happened when we first moved into that place. There was some activity going on. First night that we were there, the house was empty, and we were going to start renovating, like painting the place, and so we could move in 2 weeks later. And the first night we were in there, we're sitting down on the floor, just sitting at the cup. We had no furniture, nothing, and we had a milk crate with, again, that television that I had, that Toshiba television, same television. I don't know if that's causing things, but anyway, we had the TV on. We had a box of pizza, and we were just having something to eat, and we're talking, and we heard these footsteps walk from the back of the house directly towards where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking heavy footsteps. As it got to where we were, it was an arch that led to another room. As it got there, it stopped. And when I say heavy footsteps, I mean boots, heavy. It was so loud you couldn't deny it. And she looked at me and said, "Oh my God," because the house had been empty for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, she didn't think someone's in here.
We thought someone was squatting in there or had snuck in there.
Yep.
And she's like, "Oh my God, Peter, someone's in the house," as it was the footsteps were heading towards us. And when we heard them right in front of us, we should have seen something. We didn't see anything. And then the footsteps stopped. And we both had this weird feeling about it. And that reminded me of what happened in 88 at my parents' house.
Yeah, that's something we didn't cover yesterday, actually. It might be good to just cover this before we get into the hair stuff. But in 1988, you had a sighting.
Well, what it was, I believe my parents' house, there was a portal of some kind around there, and that's why we had a lot of activity. And
in Sydney.
Yeah, in Sydney. For about 2 weeks before my experience in 1988, we'd hear soldiers walking down, like marching, not walking, marching, and in sync and heavy, heavy footsteps. It sounded like there was dozens of them, and not just 4 or 5. It sounded like a whole platoon marching down our driveway. And had I been the only one to hear it, I would have thought maybe, I'm influenced by something or whatever. But my brothers, who lived in the 2 front rooms of the house, they heard it as well. And they would always walk out and look down the driveway because it'd come down the driveway.
Yeah.
And I'd look out my window at the end of the driveway, which led to the garage. So you couldn't disappear anywhere.
Yeah.
You were trapped in there basically. If anyone walked down our driveway and someone walked out and looked, you'd see them. But my brothers never saw anything. And my second oldest brother, he'd always say to me, "Oh, it's your friends, it's your mates." And I'm like, okay, from my past. And I'm like, okay, let's assume it's my mates. Where do they go?
Yeah. What are they doing? Where are they going?
Like there's maybe a dozen, 2 dozen of them. Where do they go?
Yeah.
How do they disappear? And you couldn't answer that. And about a week before the actual 88 experience, I was lying in my bed and I became paralyzed. And as I was laying down, I looked over me to the window above me, which is behind me. And now the windowsill was about head height. So if you're walking in the driveway, it'd be about your head height. So it's very hard for someone to be standing in this window.
Sure, yeah.
But when I looked, I saw a figure holding onto the bars and looking down at me.
Wow.
And as I looked back, I could see a silhouette of something standing there looking at me. Didn't know what it was, but I couldn't move at all. I was completely paralyzed. And then about a week or so later, I had that full experience in 1988. And that's why when in 92, we're hearing these footsteps, it took me back to that experience in 88, having all that, people marching down the driveway and so on. Anyway, we moved into the house. We'd renovated. We moved in. We were there for about 2 weeks, maybe not even 3 weeks. And she was cooking something and she needed some ingredients and she asked me to run up the shop and grab some.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked out, left. Within 2 minutes, she heard footsteps come through the house and she thought, she's in the kitchen cooking, and she thought, oh, it must be Peter. He's left his wallet or, forgotten something and he's come back to grab it. And she turned around and walking in the lounge room, again, it's an arch, and she's in the kitchen and there's another arch leading from the kitchen into the dining room into the lounge room. And she saw a man walk through across the archway, and she described him like Abraham Lincoln. She said,
weird.
She said, like an undertaker.
Mm.
She said he had a
top hat,
long, tall top hat. He had a long beard. He was wearing a coat with tailcoat. And as he walked, he actually looked at her, and that freaked her out.
Yeah.
And then he walked across the archway towards a mirrored wall. We had these square mirrors all over the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I've since removed them, but as you enter my house now, you go to the front door, directly opposite you is a mirrored wall, and it's all these square mirrors. That's how the whole lounge room back wall was. And it walked towards that wall. And anyway, I've come home maybe 10, 15 minutes later, and I walk in the house and she's hanging onto the kitchen bench, claws like left marks on there, shaking like you wouldn't believe, freaking out. And I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, Peter, there's a man in the house. And I'm like, what? She's like, there's a fucking man in the house. Someone just walked through the house. And I'm like, okay. I walked into every room. She said, oh, he walked through the mirrored door towards that mirrored wall. And there was nowhere someone could hide there. So I went and searched every room. She wouldn't give in until I searched every room, behind the curtains, inside cupboards, wardrobes. I did a full search of the house. There was nothing there. Now, I've never seen anything like that there.
Yeah.
But she had. And
there's a case Richard Dolan told me about while at Contact in the Desert last year. We were kind of trading stories, and he spoke of a case where there was this girl. She was at church with her mom, and like this very tall blonde couple just didn't fit in. They weren't, from there. They were dressed differently. They were just kind of observing, and they got up and left before everyone else. And the little girl runs after. It's almost like no one else could see them. And she runs after them, and they head down this field. And at the end of the field, waiting for them, is this very tall man dressed in a dark suit with a top hat. And he looked like Lurch from the Addams Family.
Really?
Kind of like this lanky.
Is that in his book?
No.
It's not.
No,
okay.
This is that little girl. She was the one who, she was 60 years old when she told this story to Richard at a conference.
And then she stops dead in her tracks. She said, then I saw a third person at the entrance of the wooded area. She said, remember Lurch from the Addams Family? No. Looked just like that guy.
Terrifying.
Very tall, like a man in black, but very tall, kind of ungainly tall, hat and a black suit, apparently. And this beautiful blonde supermodel couple from Venus or Pleiades or wherever they're from walked past him into the woods.
That's some of the high strangeness here that happens. Like, what is that? What are we looking at here? Are we looking at some type of, is it a ghost projection, interdimensional thing? What are we talking about? But I think you couldn't have described a more terrifying, character.
Yeah.
The top hat is very disturbing for me.
We've got to remember, my ex-wife, we're separated, but we're not divorced. It's happening. It's coming to that now. She's Greek Orthodox.
Yeah.
So she doesn't
believe in this stuff.
Doesn't believe in this stuff, but having a couple of experiences with me, she was open-minded enough to it that...
Well, it's an odd thing to lie about if you're going to lie about anything, to describe Abraham Lincoln walking about your house.
Abraham Lincoln, yeah. So we had this sort of activity early on, and we had, prior to buying that house, I had bought a house with my brothers, and I paid the deposit on the house. And I didn't like the where it was situated. It was at a dead end, in a dead end street,
Mhm.
right next to a school. And, you know, I worked different hours, all different, you know, days, nights.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll never get sleep. We're having, you know, school kids and
Yeah,
then their
kids running
parents.
around and
And then the parents picking them up after school or dropping off. You'll never get sleep. So one day I'm driving. It was like the house called to me, you know. I'm driving down this street and I see a house with a for sale sign on it out the front, but I couldn't see the house. It was just covered in bush out the front.
Yeah.
Like high. It was almost like fencing, but it was just overgrown and it just covered the whole house. You couldn't see anything. So I pulled in that driveway to reverse out in the truck and take off. And I saw a gentleman walking out, and his name was Peter as well. So I just said to him, can I have a look at the house? You know, I'm interested to maybe buy. And he said, no, we're taking it off the market. I'm going to the real estate now to take it off the market. And I said to him, can you give me till this afternoon? I'll bring my fiance with me. If she likes it, we'll make you an offer. And so that afternoon I bought her, and she brought her best friend with her. And from outside the house, as soon as she saw it, she said, Peter, this is where I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
And we had paid a deposit on a house. So
Sure,
I had to let that go. Lost my deposit, obviously. And so, yeah, we ended up buying the house, and it was as if it called to us, you know, like drew us to it. But comes around to after my sister-in-law was murdered, probably I'd say it was a month or two, maybe 2 months after, I had been helping a friend of mine who was my best man at my wedding. We were really good friends at the time. I knew him for 22 years. You know, we grew up together, went to school together. He used to sleep at my parents' house, and he lived 2 streets down the road from us, but would always stay at my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was helping him renovate his house while he was on his honeymoon. And as I was doing that, his father got people to do some building, like renovations on the house. It was a dual occupancy, so the house was stuck together.
Yeah.
2 houses, you know, and they were working on one side, I was working on the other. And they realized that they were in over their heads. They weren't builders. They were just handymen, and they took on a big task. And I don't know why, but for some reason I got blamed for their situation. So I left the site for 3 days, and I went back, and I had a labourer with me who worked with me for a while. And as we reversed into the driveway, I noticed that all my tools had been used, like the cement mixer, the wheel, but everything had been used, but never cleaned.
Not cleaned.
Just damaged, just left everywhere. And I asked them, why would they do that? You know, and they said, oh, go speak to your mate's father. You know, went to him. I was getting sent back and forth.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I just said to my labourer, don't worry, load everything up. We're leaving. I'm not going to finish the job. All I had to do was the front fence. I said, I'll wait till my mate comes back.
Yeah.
I'll do it then. I don't want to do it while these guys are here. And they said, no, you need to leave him here. We need to use him. And I was like, you use him, you abuse him, and you want me to leave him?
Yeah.
Hadn't even finished the word, like, you want me to leave him? And there was a guy, one of them was washing his hands and the tools, grabbed a knife and threw it at me. Yeah. I was about probably 5-6 meters away from him, and the knife wedged in my chest. It stuck in my chest. So I'm looking at this knife sticking in my chest and didn't even think. I pulled it out and I threw it on the ground, and he came at me with a shovel. Couldn't even understand why. I didn't even know why this was happening. Like, how much anger do you have to take it out on someone that had nothing to do with it?
Yeah, what is this guy, John Wick? What's the...
Yeah.
Who throws a knife at anyone? That's insane.
Exactly. And, I mean, it could have hit me in the face, in the head.
In the heart?
But in the heart. Look how close. It hit me right there. And he ran at me with a small, shorter shovel and swung it at me. I blocked it, and he dropped it and ran. And from behind, I didn't even see it coming. It's like someone behind me now, as I'm talking to you, hit me on the top of the head with a shovel, longer shovel, and hit me sharp edge, not flat.
Oh, my God.
Mate, anytime I see a movie now and someone gets hit with a shovel, I don't want to, I'd cringe, you know.
Yeah.
It still gets me now.
Of course.
And I got hit the first time, and then I got hit the second time. So I had I can show you the scar. I've got a picture of the injury. And the third one, I turned around. I didn't know where it was coming from. and I seen a shovel coming at me again, and I blocked it with my right hand and fractured my thumb. And he dropped the shovel, and my knees went.
Of course.
I couldn't even stand up.
Yeah.
So I grabbed onto the guy as we were struggling. I didn't even throw a punch. I just grabbed, and as I grabbed him, my knees went, and he pulled my hair and opened up my cut even more, and it's just blood just shot out, like just went everywhere.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and as I'm holding him, I don't know where he got it from, but he had a bottle, and he smashed it against the wall and just went whack, whack, whack 3 times up and across my arm, and that's where I got these scars from. So the labourer, the guy that was with me, he jumped in and separated us, and I passed out.
Yeah.
When I came to, I was in an ambulance, and I was in the back of an ambulance, and it was 2 females, one driving, one in the back with me, and I was in and out of consciousness, so I could hear them talking at times, and I'd hear something like, "What a shame, a young guy, and his a hairline away from death," and I'm like, "Fuck,
That's you, yeah.
I didn't realize how bad it was."
Mm-hmm.
And I got taken to hospital, and 2 female detectives went to my wife's work and picked her up, and she thought I was dead. She thought, why would detectives, 2 females,
Of course,
to comfort her? And all the way in the car, she was saying, "My husband's dead, isn't he?" And I was saying, "Look, he's badly injured. We don't know, so we're just going to go to the hospital and they'll fill you in on what's going on." So she thought 100% like he's dead. And when she got there, she walked in and saw that half my head was shaved and they had already stitched me up and so on. And it damaged us both. I was out of work for 3 years, and I felt so bad for her because she was paying the mortgage on her own.
Yeah.
And we struggled for 3 years,
Mm.
And it went to court, and in court, the police originally charged them with grievous bodily harm, which got reduced to bodily harm, which is a whole different charge.
Yeah. But also attempted murder.
It should have been attempted murder, 100%. Yeah. I reckon if I did that to someone, I'd still be in jail now.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, I went to court. The guy who threw the knife at me got a 12 months good behaviour bond. And the guy who did most of the damage, although I had a witness who they tried to bribe him with $5,000 not to say anything. And he said that in court. He said they offered me $5,000 not to give evidence. But the magistrate, for some reason, ruled that I couldn't have seen that who hit me, but I did when I turned around. And he walked free.
No way.
But it cost them a lot of money. It cost, and these are the sort of people that you could take their blood and they wouldn't care. Take $1 off them and they will freak out. Money meant to them more than life.
Right, yeah.
So in a way, I was happy that it cost them around $100,000 out of their pocket because they had to pay my legal expenses as well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get any financial, nothing. I didn't get any benefit out of it whatsoever. They were, even if I went to sue them civilly in that, it would have been a battle. It probably cost me more.
You know how we chase down the hidden and unexplained on this channel? Well, there's something else hiding in plain sight. Your personal data. Your phone number, home address, even your family's names are scattered across hundreds of websites. Right now, that information is being collected, sold, and traded by data brokers without your consent. And it's exactly how scammers, spammers, and hackers find you. Manually removing that data would take hundreds of hours, and even then, it'll reappear. That's why I use Incogni. It's like hiring a digital cleanup crew that works in the shadows to erase your footprint. Here's how it works. Number 1, create an account and share only the bare minimum of info to locate your profiles. Number 2, authorize Incogni to act on your behalf. And number 3, that's it. They'll automatically contact hundreds of data brokers, deleting your information and keeping it gone with regular follow-ups. It's risk-free for 30 days, and you can cancel anytime. Go to incogni.com/area52 and use code area52 for 60% off annual plans. Because the truth is, they can't harm you. They can't find you.
So anyway, I had head injuries, and I was recovering, and I was on medication, and doctors put me on Prozac. Now, I didn't know what Prozac was, but one day, for some reason, I saw an article about Lady Diana, Princess Diana, and how she was put on Prozac, and she was saying she had bad side effects, and she didn't like it. And then I was talking to my brother-in-law, my wife's brother,
Yeah.
and he said that he was on it as well. And he said, oh, it does things to me. I just don't like it. So I had taken one tablet of Prozac and I stopped taking it. I didn't even tell my doctor. I just had the bottle. It was sitting in the drawer for years. It might still be in a drawer somewhere. I'd love to find it because it'll show that I only took the one tablet out of there, But so I'm home a lot of the time. And I'm not the type of person who wants to stay home for 3 years,
Of course.
But I was struggling through it, battling through it. And I was on painkiller medication. And, people can say, oh, it's a medication, but it wasn't strong medication, like Panadine Forte.
Yeah, codeine.
Yeah. That was probably the strongest thing that I was taking at the time. And the worst side effect I got from it was
nausea, or
me, constipation more than anything.
Yeah.
That was probably it, no nausea, nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get to July, 12th of July, 92, and I would drive my wife to the station every morning, a train station. She'd catch a train to work, and then I'd pick her up in the evening. And this particular morning, we got in the car, and I wasn't feeling sick at all. I was feeling fine. And we got in the car, and as I was driving away from the house, the further I got, I'd say after about 20, 30 meters away from my house, I started to feel funny, like something wasn't right. And the further we got, the sicker I felt, but not head sick, not pain in my head or anything. It was more like I wanted to vomit. And so I opened the car door as I'm driving, and I got sick, and it was just fluoride yellow. It was like bright yellow, and at times it'd be green mixed with green, but fluoro colors, like bright.
Yeah.
And I thought I didn't eat or drink anything that would cause this, But the further I got from home and closer we got to the railway station, to the train station, I'd pull up more regularly. Like I was pulling up, say, every 50 meters, and now I'm pulling up every 10 meters. And I was like, a lot of liquid was coming out of my body. I don't know where it came from. Like you would have to drink liters and liters and liters to vomit so much. And so yeah, she was a bit concerned that she was going to work and I'm getting this sick and she wasn't going to be with me. So she just said, keep in touch with me all day, let me know what goes on, So I dropped her off at the railway station, and on the way back home, I was still pulling up and, getting sick. Open the door, get sick, close the door, drive a few meters, open the door, get sick. But I noticed the closer I got back to home, the less I felt sick. And then towards the end, I didn't have to stop and, vomit. So got home, pulled up in the driveway, walked up the steps, opened the door, walked in, and instantly, because I had been vomiting now, I thought, I'll just go back to bed, And it was July, so it was cold. I had a quilt, and I got back into bed, and I was wearing a sloppy Joe, like a tracksuit almost, with a sloppy Joe and pants. And I laid back in bed and put the quilt over me. And this is at 10 past 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was early. A lot of people, when they talk about my case, they say it was at night, he was asleep and this happened. No, I was fully awake. I had just driven out of the house, dropped her off, came back home, fully aware, awake, but I just
lucid.
And I thought I'll just go and lie down and rest up a bit. And as I laid down, within, I'd say less than 5 minutes, I felt like something jumped on the bed, and I felt an indentation on the mattress. And I thought, shit, is that a dog? Is it a cat? That's what I was thinking. But then we didn't have pets at the time. So the only thing I thought of was maybe when I opened the front door to walk in.
You let something in?
Maybe a dog came in, or a dog I'd probably notice, but maybe a cat snuck in. That's my thought process at the time. And as I sat up, I realized that I wasn't under the quilt. I was on top of the covers. And As I went to sit up, this is where it gets a little bit confusing for me because it's hard to explain, but at the same time, it happened, so I'm going to talk about it. Someone says, oh, I was interested till he talked about this astral thing and I lost, it happened. As I'm sitting up, I saw my astral body, my soul, whatever you want to call it, I saw it come out of me and I could see, it was like a see-through, transparent image of me, and it sort of was in stages. It was like bang, 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 and sat upright. And as I'm looking at this, I can see an image of me, and then I can see an image of a female straddling me. And I'm like, what am I looking at? And I could see through me, through that image of me, I could see her. And I'm like, what the hell? And then as I sat up, my body and my astral body, my soul became one again. And as soon as that happened, she put her hands like that behind my head and pulled my head towards her breast, her left breast. And I pushed away. I had put my hands against her body and I pushed away. She pushed me back a second time, pulled me closer and held me tighter.
Can you describe right now what this person looked like that was on your bed with you?
Okay. I didn't know it, like when I was trying to get that, I wasn't concentrating on her head. I was just focused on trying to push away from her breast because I'm claustrophobic at the best of times and I couldn't breathe when she buried my face into her. So when I pushed away from her the third time, I struggled. Like I had my hands against her body, but I couldn't push away.
She was strong.
She was so strong, yeah. And eventually I pushed away. And as I pushed away, that's when I looked and I got the whole image of her. And there was this blonde female, milky white skin, like she's never been in the sun. And that's similar to what my mum saw when I was 22 days old, the milky white skin male. And she had, it was thick hair, but it was wispy. It was very thin looking, and as I'm looking at her hair, it didn't look like human hair. Like our human hair's a bit thicker, it fills the hair. This thing looked see-through, almost like fishing line. And her, like the shape of her head, she had huge cheekbones. And at the time I sort of remember Cher, the singer Cher. She's got a longer face. She's got the big
high cheekbones.
And that's what I said she looked like close enough to Cher's face, like with the features, but not dark like her. Her perfect nose, like perfection, a little bit longer. It was longer than a human nose, but it wasn't a big nose at all. It just suited because her face was a little bit longer. So it suited her. Her lips were normal mouth, normal lips.
Her eyes?
The eyes caught my attention. That's what blew me away, her eyes. I don't know if because when I pushed away from her, she was shocked and she had that, expression on her face where her eyes opened up a bit more. But her eyes looked, 2 to 3 times bigger than a human eyes and the most beautifulest blue I have ever seen. My partner now, she keeps trying to find the blues and she's come close, but not exactly. But it was just, the eyes took me. I couldn't believe the color of her eyes. And like her pupils were blue and then it faded into a lighter blue where they should be white. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, how did you get into my room? Like, how did you get in here? Who are you? Where are you from? Who are you?
And she's naked.
Completely naked.
And you describe, I think in the book, like much taller than you, it would seem.
She was, yeah.
Although she was sitting on her calves, so to speak, or like kind of straddling you.
Straddling me, almost like a kneeling,
sitting on her legs type.
And when she pulled me towards her breast, she had easily
a head over you.
Easily, a head over me. And
so maybe 7 feet tall, roughly.
I'd say so, yeah. I'd say so.
Okay.
And perfect body.
Yeah.
Some people make fun of my description of that she had, really well-proportioned breasts.
Yeah.
And where she came from. I didn't use this term. Bill Chalker and others did. It's as if there was no gravity where she lived.
Right, I see.
And her breasts weren't droopy or lower down. They were jetting out.
Yeah.
And I hate doing this because someone's going, oh, he did this with
Obviously.
his hands. But
obviously people are going to, extrapolate anything they want from this. But,
yeah,
being honest about what that description is, I think provides the best, data for the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm not going to change my story and what I saw to make people,
Yeah.
But, and as I'm looking at her, I'm looking down at her body and I noticed that she didn't have a belly button. And that freaked me out a bit. Yeah, I was like, well, I didn't know anything about cloning at the time. And Dolly the sheep hadn't been cloned by that stage.
No.
The Raelians were claiming that they were going to clone a baby and ended up, they said they did it eventually. That all came just after. And I didn't know much about cloning or what a clone would look like. But when a panel of researchers, 12 of them actually sat down with me for about 6 hours and questioned, the hell out of the whole thing. And I remember saying to them, she didn't have a belly button. And they said, what do you mean? Like, I said, I don't know, but whoever made them for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I was suggesting that they made them to have
some type of intercourse
to create life.
Or like a training doll or something, or
this is when it gets
even more strange.
Well, the training, someone showing something or teaching someone. So I'm looking down, I see she's got no belly button, and I notice on the right side of the bed, but towards the corner of the bed, like at the end of the bed, was an Asian-looking female, and she was sitting. You know how, like in the school photo, how you take a photo and you'd have your hands on your knees, like that, and on your top of your knees. She was sitting on her calves with her legs folded under her, and she had her hands like that. Black hair, page boy style haircut, dark hair, Asian looking, but in the eyes, I mostly saw black, but I saw a little bit of white on the edges.
Giant pupils, giant.
Yeah.
Sort of iris and pupils. Black.
And one had, the blonde one had blue, bright blue, and this one had dark eyes. And she just looked like she was in a trance. Like
not tall?
No, not as tall as
normal
the blonde.
Height.
Yeah, not as tall as the blonde. And the way she was sitting down, her skin tone was dark skin, a lot darker than the other one. Obviously, the other one I don't think had been in the sun at all. And the way she was sitting, her stomach looked like she might have been pregnant, or she might have been a
bit of a pot belly.
A little bit of, not too much, but there was a bit of a belly there. And I don't know why I thought, she looks pregnant.
Interesting.
It just could have been that she had a little bit of weight on her. And she was just like in a trance, just watching, looking at the blonde female and watching what's going on. I don't know if she was the teacher or if she was the student. But someone was showing someone how to do something.
You had that feeling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, and when she pushed me towards her breast the third time, and I'm trying to push away, I couldn't do it. And my face is buried in her breast. So my defensive action, and people have a go at me about this, but they don't realize I'm claustrophobic. My face gets buried in her breast. I'm trying to push away from her. I couldn't. I panicked. I couldn't breathe. I was struggling to breathe. So I didn't take a bite. People say, oh, what type of person is he? I didn't take a bite. I took I pinched with my teeth. I just sort of pinched her skin. And I did feel something hit the back of my throat. And as soon as it hit the back of my throat, and I thought it might have been a bit of flesh, as soon as it hit the back of my throat, it was like I had just drank acid, and it was burning the back of my throat so bad. And but I looked at her, and she was in complete shock. That's why her eyes opened up so wide. And she instantly looked at the other one, and I'm looking at her breast, and I can see there's no blood, there's no cut, there's no damage, nothing at all. And sometimes I think I was given something. It might have been a tablet or something, because at the end of it all, I had erection for 6 hours, and it was the most painful erection I've ever had. 6 hours of it. I don't know if anyone's been through it before, but it is painful. And so yeah, I swallow this thing, and I just started coughing, and I'm looking down, I'm coughing my guts, like it was just burning me. And as I look back up at them, the blonde one looks at the Asian, and I didn't hear them talking, I felt them talking. And it was telepathic, and it was, he's done this, something's gone wrong, he's done this wrong, this isn't like the last time, he's done this wrong. And I'm like, she's like, something's gone wrong. She kept repeating that. And I'm like, again, it's like this thing of, what fucking last time?
Yeah.
Like, I keep hearing this as if it's happened before, but I had no memory of anything happening with these females before.
Sure.
So, yeah, there was telepathic communication between them, and then there was the blonde communicated directly with me. And it was very rapid, very quick, but I understood everything she said, and it was in English, like it wasn't some language that I couldn't understand.
This was actual words?
No, this is telepathy.
Yeah.
This
Mhm.
is, it's
Okay.
like her thinking, and I can tell what she's thinking.
Okay.
And it was things like basically telling me that my marriage or my family life would end sometime in the future, that I wouldn't be married, to the same person forever. And I knew that it'd be around 2015, 2016. And there was even a time given to me where, this is 1992, and she said in 25 years, I got this thing where information was coming that there are portals all around the world. And in the next 20 to 25 years, they'll start activating and coming to life, and that we'll see beings and creatures come to our
Whoa.
side that we'd never seen before. And
So that would put it around 2017.
2017. And my breakup in my marriage was December 2016.
Wow.
So a couple of weeks. It was actually the second week in December, just before Christmas.
Were you receiving this on purpose, or was this just like a sort of mirror image of like your timeline that you were like getting, or were you like, was she purposely giving you information? Do you
I think it's purposely giving me
Really?
information. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
what purpose do you think?
I think to prepare me for it.
Oh,
I
interesting.
think just to, yeah. So, but as she's talking to me and she's saying to me, your marriage or your family life will end at this time. And she actually pointed to her stomach. She touched her stomach and then went like that, pointed to the sky. And I didn't read much into it at the time. But then later on, when I'm thinking about it, I thought, oh, she's talking about, carrying a child, and it's going to be born up there. And that's the impression I was getting. And so I'll get to something else later that happened about 14 years later, and I saw a child and this is where my kids have a bit of an issue with. Anyway, so yeah, she touches her stomach and points up, and I get this coughing fit again, like, acid down my throat. So I start coughing and I look down, and when I look back up, they were gone, vanished. So I got out of bed and I went into the kitchen. I grabbed some Lebanese bread, tried to eat it, thinking it'll, push it down, because it felt like it was stuck in my throat and I couldn't get it to come down. So I had some bread, and then I grabbed some water, and as soon as the water hit the back of my throat, it just inflamed it. It was like fire just exploded in my throat. And I had the urge to go use the bathroom to pee. And as I walked in the bathroom, men know when you're about to pee, you get build up and then you release. Yeah. As soon as I felt that build up, I felt like my private part, my penis, had been slashed with razors. Like the pain, it was excruciating pain. And I ended up, I did pee, and then I'm in so much pain, I had to see what's going on. I thought it was actually like cut, almost like a razor or something had cut me. And when I looked, I saw two hairs. One was in an S shape and one was sort of half wrapped around, but they were embedded into my skin. And when I say embedded, it's like you stick your nail in your skin and you get that indentation. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take them off and I'm going to put them in a bag because I know exactly where they came from. That wasn't from my partner, my wife at the time.
Yeah.
I knew where they came from.
Yeah.
And as I was trying to take them off, it was the most excruciating pain I ever been through. I had tears running down my eyes. I was crying as I was trying to peel them off. It was so painful, and it actually left the shape of how they were on there. And people have asked me, why didn't you take a photo? And I'm like, that's the last thing on my mind or anyone's mind to go, like it would have been good evidence to have the hair and then show exactly where I was. But that's a bit private. That's a bit personal. And if I took that photo, I wouldn't show it to too many people, you know. It'd probably be just for my benefit. But so yeah, I decided I'm going to go get a plastic bag, stick the two hairs in there, folded it over, taped it, and I put a sticker on there, and I wrote the date, the time, 2 females, 1 blonde, 1 Asian. Just put, you know, just simple stuff on there just to remind me. And because of the scratchy throat, I'd have these coughing fits.
Yeah.
And I'd cough for like 10, 15, 20 minutes straight every time. Like I'd be relieved when I wasn't coughing. You know, I'd have this burning but not coughing. I'd be like, oh, thank God, you know, I can relax. But then when I would just, it'd be a little cough and it just build into a massive cough, yeah. And the insides, my insides, like my organs were so sore just from coughing. I think if you cough for 20 minutes at a time, regularly, you're going to feel.
Yeah, you're going to blow out the vessels in your eyes. You crack a rib.
Mate, it was so painful,
annoying, and painful, and
very painful.
Yeah,
and I think it might have been around 9:30, something like that. I decided to call my wife, who was at work at the time, and called the number. I'm talking to her. You know, she's like, "Hello." She's a receptionist, and she was like, "Hello," you know, so and so. And I said, "Hi," you know. And she's like, "Yeah, hi." And we're talking, you know, for probably 30 seconds, close to a minute. And she's like, "I'm sorry, who am I talking to?" And I was like, "It's your husband, it's Peter." And she's like, "Oh my God, Pete, it doesn't sound like you." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I've been coughing for so long. I've got a scratchy throat. That's probably why." She goes, "No, babe, you sound like a completely different person." And I don't know if it was the adrenaline, if it was the pain, it was, you know.
Yeah.
And I said to her, "Look, I'm not ready to," I said, "something happened to me. I'm not ready to talk to you about it yet. But when I do, just connect the coughing that I'm having now with what I tell you." And she's like, "Okay." It took me 3 weeks. I did feel a little bit
guilty or shameful. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not shameful because I didn't do it.
No,
it wasn't something.
But there is something there that you feel bad for your partner, obviously.
I felt guilty.
Yeah.
I felt like, how is she going to, it scared me. Like I thought, how is she going to handle this? And what if she doesn't believe, what if she thinks, oh.
Well, I think that's the first instinct for anyone is to go, oh, you've cheated on me or something. Like that's where the human mind goes, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't go, oh, I believe you, it's aliens, like right away.
That's right.
You know, so I think naturally anyone would, you know, fight back on that a little bit.
And that concerned me. I thought, you know, if once I tell her, and that's why it took me 3 weeks. I think it was in about August 20th, 21st, something like that, around that time that I decided to talk to her about it. And when we did sit down and talk to her, I talked to her about it, and I reminded her, I said, "Remember the coughing? Remember what I told you over the phone?" She's like, yeah, I've been waiting to hear the rest of the story, what happened. And I explained it to her, and her reaction just blew me away. I couldn't believe how understanding she was. Anyone else would ask hundreds of questions just to confirm that it wasn't humans, it wasn't, you know. But look, people have accused me of hiring prostitutes at 7 o'clock in the morning after I've driven my wife to the station and vomited and got sick.
Yeah, while you were at home with a head injury.
Mate, who would think about having a call girl come to their house?
We can put all of that aside.
Yeah.
Because what comes from this eventually, and we'll get to that too, what comes from this is DNA testing.
That's right.
And that, to me, is the most important part of all this. And I have so many questions around that as well. But before we get into that, I do want to note a few things points of connection. I think you're obviously familiar with Antonio Villas-Boas.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
A lot of similarities. One, the obviously human-looking female. Now, the one in his story, this happened in 1951, I want to say, Antonio Villas-Boas. It was like the first abduction, maybe even 58, maybe later than that.
I think
58.
It was later.
Yeah. 58. It was before Betty and Barney.
Yeah.
So 1958. And Antonio, gets taken by these little guys with like tubes on their head, very strange ordeal, gets put in a room, undressed, lathered up with some type of like antiseptic or something, and then, has intercourse with this extraterrestrial being, and she looks human, but she's very short. She's like 5 foot tall, even shorter than that. So a bit of a difference there. But what's similar here is two things notably, I think. One, obviously the pointing to the stomach and the pointing to the sky. That's Antonio, recounts that as well to the researchers that were studying his case. Okay. He says that that's the last thing she did. He interpreted this as "I'll be back" when he told the researchers, and the researchers were like, "I don't think that's what that means. I think, I have a baby and I'm leaving, or I'm going up there." Yeah. And he's like, no. He's like, "She'll be back," and he was he felt slighted by this whole thing, which is kind of interesting. Like he felt like he was just used, like some type of stallion. Yeah. And he didn't feel good about that. He felt pretty slighted about it and betrayed. The second thing is also in his case, there was a prolonged erection as well.
Right.
Due to what? Because he had become very ill after this encounter, almost like some type of radiation sickness.
Right. Okay.
And that was a symptom too. That he and it lasted way longer, and it was very painful than it should have been. And so that's, I think, an interesting thing to note here. I don't know what that connection is, but it seems like they applied the same method.
Look, a lot of men would think, wow, an erection for 6 hours, that's, a bonus, a benefit. It's just so painful. It's not funny. And I wouldn't wish that on people. It's not something for me to brag about.
Sure. Of course.
Yeah. And it's not like I had the ability. I think that's why I think I was giving something and it reacted, because I didn't see any broken skin on her. Yeah. I didn't see blood. I didn't see any damage whatsoever when I did pinch with my teeth,
and no painful reaction from her either.
No,
right?
It was more
surprised.
More surprised, like,
but not like ow, no, like what was the other one doing? It was no movement,
just watching,
just
intensely watching, and that's why I'm thinking someone was teaching someone, and the other one was learning how to interact. It was like someone was teaching someone how to interact with us. But anyway.
So then after this, you keep this close to yourself. You don't share this with anyone. This is kind of like obviously a very traumatic experience, but also absurd, right? It's just absurd. As an experience.
I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I told my partner, because she had supported me
obviously
all along. And I thought, if I'm going to speak to anybody, I'm going to speak to her, before I go and try and speak to professionals or anyone. And I really didn't want to at that time. I had talked about my 88 experience, my childhood experience, but this one I held on to, and I didn't want, even Bill Chalker, I didn't speak to him. My story for the 88 experience, it appeared in Bill's Ozfiles book. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't looking for glory. I wasn't looking to have my case written up. I kept it to myself because I did think it was just too personal. Yeah. And how it all went public or, became known was we were doing someone offered to do a documentary film about my story. And we had 2 female producers, directors come to my house.
Right.
Bill
you
Chalker
mentioned
was
this
there.
yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Chalker was there. And as they're So they sort of thought it was a bit funny, and they
Yeah.
were joking around, and all they were interested in is getting 2 T-shirts so they can give to the producers.
And they
that
said, if
sent them
this
there.
is real,
If this is real,
Yeah.
there should be some physical evidence,
Yeah.
like in a sexual assault case.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help myself. I was like, you want evidence? I'll show you evidence. It was like they were mocking me in a way.
Yeah.
Oh, if this is real, there should be evidence. And I said, you want evidence? I'll show you evidence. And I don't think they expected to see what I came back with. So I went and grabbed the hair samples which were in the bag, and I said, there's evidence that this is from that experience. And they were like, oh, that looks interesting. It should be tested or whatever, And after that day, we never heard from them ever again.
But Bill was present?
Bill was present.
What was his reaction?
Well, as soon as Bill heard it, he stood up. He was sitting down at the time, and he stood up, and he waited for them to make their comments, and so on. And then he walked up to me quietly and just said, mate, why haven't you told me about this? And Bill is all about physical evidence, trace evidence.
Science,
yeah. And I remember saying to him, Bill, my 1988 experience was bad enough to get across to people and talk about. And I said, this is a whole new can of worms. I don't want to open, I just don't want to deal with it. And he was like, okay, but whenever you're ready, please let me know. So moving ahead now, a few years went by,
Well, you had started, this was kind of the spawn of the support group.
Yeah,
well.
not long after, yeah.
This is like a year later, maybe less than a year later, you were to form this support group. Was this experience a bit of a catalyst for that?
100%. Yeah. So on the 13th of April, 1993, we formed the UFO Experience Support Association, which was a support group just to give people. I thought if it's affected me so much and I've got evidence to support, those people have had these experiences but don't have the physical evidence, they'd be struggling. And I wanted to give them a place that they can turn to and speak openly about it without being ridiculed, without being, anybody sort of labeling what they're seeing or diagnosing. I just want them to speak their mind. And when Bill contacted me, I believe it was around 96, and he advised me that he had a group of colleagues, the Invisible College, and he said, have you still got the hair sample? I said, yeah, I do. And he said, would you want it to be DNA tested? And I jumped at the chance. I didn't even have to think about it twice. I was like, yep, let's do it. I trusted Bill too. I wouldn't have given that sample to anybody else.
No.
And I did have people ask me to give it to him to test, but that was the group that the guy had the T-shirt with some evidence and threw it in the bin.
Right. So not the group you want to give that to.
No, I'm not. And I tell you right now, if I did, that case would have been buried.
Yeah, you would have never seen it.
You would have never seen the hair again. You would have never seen the test. So I just trusted Bill, and I said, yeah, mate, come and pick it up, come and get it. And they took the hair, and the hair was gone for 10 years.
And this is the Invisible College.
That's right.
This is Bill and his group of
scientific
scientists
friends.
and like-minded.
That's right.
Sort of investigators and peers, and they take this sample and they do several DNA tests. You said it was 10 years?
I didn't have the hair for 10 years.
You didn't have the hair for 10 years, but you got the results, though.
We got the results, yeah. Bill had the hair for 10 years, a 10-year period, and
there were 2 tests done.
There were 2 tests done, and after the first test, they came to my house, a couple of scientists, the head scientist, Horace Drew, Dr. Horace Drew, and Bill came over and they took a hair sample of me. They took a hair sample
from
of
your
my
wife.
partner, and they went away.
Yeah, to create a control.
Yeah. They thought it might have been, Vivian's hair,
but you also have to have a comparison as a control.
Yeah. So they had the hair for a couple of months, and then Bill contacted me and he said, mate, we've got some results here that aren't adding up. We want to do some more work on this. Will you give us permission? And I said, do what you got to do, you know. And the second phase was the nuclear DNA testing. And in one of the tests, they found in the root of the hair, they had the rarest Basque, Gaelic, Scandinavian looking, you know, tall, blonde, blue eyes DNA. And in the shaft of the hair, it had the rarest mitochondrial DNA.
The Chinese,
the
Tibetan,
Chinese, the
Mongolian,
Lahu. And
that's individually two rare haplotypes. The Chinese Tibetan one being extremely rare. I mean, there's only a few other haplotypes that are more rare than that. One of them is like the Pygmy tribe.
That's right.
We're talking extremely, extremely rare. So already, first of all, it having two haplotypes in the same sample, we're talking
same hair.
Same hair.
Yeah.
Is highly unusual.
Yeah.
There's some type of graft happening. This is before hair grafts. So there's some type of mix happening here. Now, at first, one might be quick to dismiss that as some type of contamination, but you have to understand that when testing these things are washed.
Oh, 100.
They are made sure that there is no contaminant whatsoever. So, although that's where people would interject, even that.
But the head scientist, they got to understand. He had written a number of books. He was, high authority on the DNA stuff, and if there was anything questionable, he would have discovered it.
Well, they were looking for it.
They were looking, They were trying to find something to discredit, not discredit, but to prove that something went wrong.
Because it's anomalous. It's an absolute anomaly. So, on top of that, the hair itself being the color and tone it was like a very light blonde or like a see-through, almost albino hair, and it was wispy.
Even more intriguing than albino.
Exactly,
albino, you see the white hair.
That's right.
Where this one, it was, when I said earlier, it was like wispy, but
see-through.
It was like see-through.
Yeah. They couldn't actually see it. They had to even when they were studying it, they had to use light to bounce off of it.
That's
because
right.
you couldn't see it. It was so faint and so transparent. Now, the idea that anyone with any type of Asian heritage having even blonde hair, is so close to one in a few billion.
It wasn't even blonde, it was white.
Yeah.
It was actually white hair.
And then what they did, they even tested your white hair.
That's right.
To make sure, they went through the ringer with this stuff to make sure that what they were looking at was indeed what the results were showing.
Yeah, they didn't leave a stone unturned, and they went about it the right way.
So on top of that, on top of having two sort of haplotypes in this mitochondrial DNA test, after that they do another test, which you mentioned.
Yes. What they found was a CCR5 gene deletion, and if you don't have that in your system, you're not
two.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna catch sexually transmitted diseases.
That's right.
And early on, when I had these researchers sit down with me and question me for hours and hours, and I said to them, these people are made for a reason. This is where it all comes together. And if you're gonna have or make a being or a creature, male, female, whatever, and they don't have that, and they're not going to catch sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
It's part and parcel of what they're trying to achieve.
Of course.
You wouldn't have someone that's going to catch a disease and affect a child, a baby or whatever, or affect them.
Another arrow pointing to this being engineered.
Yeah.
To this being engineered in some way.
And a couple of the people who did the research or the testing, even Dr. Horace Drew, he thought that the hairs were placed there on purpose, wasn't an accident. And it's like these beings are saying, what's taken you so bloody long?
Oh, yeah.
And I can understand where people are now saying, same thing happened to me with the same beings.
Like a type of donation.
And I had a hair. I've also got hairs, but I've lost them or I dropped them or,
Okay. So before we get to there, I want to explain what the CCR5 sort of gene deletion means. Now, this is not it's a chemokine receptor type 5. That's what it stands for, and it's a protein on the surface of the white blood cell. And what it essentially does, it acts as a gateway. So that protein goes around the white blood cell and then acts as a gateway for viruses. So if you're missing one of these gene receptors, you're pretty immune.
Yeah.
You have a good immunity to especially AIDS, but to sexually transmitted diseases. But if you have both, like 2 copies, which means you would have to have one from each parent,
Right.
which makes it incredibly rare that both of the parents have this gene deletion.
Yeah.
They would make you almost completely immune
yeah.
to all that stuff,
Yeah.
which is in Eurasian, so European Asians, fewer than 1%
That's right,
have
yeah.
like a gene deletion there. And that DNA would be like maybe one, just having that Eurasian DNA would be 1 in 100,000, then plus the gene deletion. If we add the blonde phenotype, let's say it's blonde, which is 2% globally. If we combine that, all of these different factors, we have the, this fact that it's a white hair, a blonde hair, from an Asian descent, from this small haplotype. If we add in the fact that it has these CCR5 deletion, the chances, and I ran this through like ChatGPT to see what the chances were, and it's 0. It's 0 in the population. It's 1 in billions.
Really? That's interesting.
Billions. Okay. So this is where it gets really, really interesting, because the tests that they were doing back then, now they have something called a high throughput sequencing.
Right.
With genes. So back then, they would look at base pairs, and they could only look at like one base pair at a time, and they could do a few hundred base pair using the PCR method to like duplicate the DNA.
And that's another thing with the
and we'll get to that.
Yes,
with the gentleman who discovered
Kerry Mullis.
Exactly.
Kerry Mullis,
who's had some experiences himself.
Yep.
But this PCR test, essentially, it revolutionized gene testing and DNA testing, because what this did was you were able to replicate DNA.
That's right.
And so you were able to do a bunch of tests with a very, very small sample.
That's right.
And it's what they use in crime scenes now. It's what they use in all these different things.
Yeah.
We might be familiar with it with COVID. We had PCR tests.
Yes.
And that's what it was. It was a small sample that they were able to extrapolate, a lot of information from, a lot of data. Yeah. Well, what you would do is you would do this, you would look at base pairs. You would basically sequence this and hundreds of times back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that would take you weeks. Now, with the technology we have, you could do billions in an hour. It's insane what we can do with DNA nowadays compared to even 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
1992, 33 years ago. And
so my question is, would you be willing to have it retested with, and I'll pay for it?
Yeah, unfortunately, the hair was destroyed to a point where there's no root anymore.
There's not enough?
And there's the shaft that I have.
Yeah.
It's minute, but my recollection is that Dr. Horace Drew said to me, this is over a phone conversation, not one-on-one in person. He said to me, look, DNA is we're in the toddler stage back then. He said, this is just starting. It's going to get much, much more advanced. And he said he's got a little vial with a little bit of DNA, and it's sitting in his safe.
And he's saving it.
And he said to me, who knows what could happen in 10, 20 years with the advancement of, when they first did the test, they did it in a lab, a private lab.
Yeah.
I know in a couple of podcasts, they say CSIRO did it. No, it was CSIRO staff that worked there, but didn't do it through CSIRO.
Right.
They kept that separate. And I got the impression that, well, that's what I was told, that there was minute tube of DNA, and 10, 20 years down the track, they could do a lot more with it.
I think that's today. I think it's
today. And I've asked Bill to ask Dr. Horace Drew to please go and look in his safe.
Yes.
Because I didn't make that up. That didn't just come into my head.
No,
and I thought, he's got, I was told that he did. So maybe because he's done so many different things and he's just forgotten about it.
Maybe.
But I'm reminding him and Bill and saying, just check. You might find a little tube there, a little vial.
Yeah.
And it might have, and then maybe we can work with that. Now, I got contacted by a scientist from Western Sydney University, and he said to me, we need 1/6 of the hair, the size of
That's
the hair,
it.
and we'll tell you what they ate
Yeah.
or
Wow.
what they eat. And I said, look, I don't have much of the hair left.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to destroy the hair, completely lose it and not have anything to find out what they eat. Like, I don't care whether they eat strawberry or whether they eat apples, I really don't care. It'd be good if we had enough samples. I wish they left a clunk of hair.
I mean, what's interesting here that if you do end up getting it tested, and here's what matters the most, is because these tests and this study was not peer reviewed. No. And I know that's innocuous to compare that to what happened to you because it's objectively something that's real. To say that like, oh, you need this to be peer reviewed to be real is absurd. However, that would revolutionize science. Yeah. Because we're looking at something that, although after, doing the modern sort of throughput tests with it, the high throughput sequencing, we wouldn't be able to prove it's extraterrestrial.
That's right.
You'd never be like, oh, that's alien. Yeah. But we could effectively say there is nothing else, not only in the human gene pool, but even in the bacterial gene pool that matches this DNA.
That's right. Yeah.
And that type of anomaly would be groundbreaking.
Look, when I handed them the sample, I wasn't expecting much at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were either. And when they came back to me with the results, of course, I would love to have it verified. I would love to have 5-6 different labs test it, but unfortunately,
you only have a small sample.
There's only a small sample, and that's where I keep saying to Bill, ask him to find that vial because it's only a little bit, but
Bill.
PCR they can copy that multiple times.
They can copy an infinite amount of times,
and it's taken me years and years saying to him, and only last week I said to him, Bill, please. Just ask Horace to look in his safe because I remember him telling me it's in his safe. I don't know how many things he's got in his safe, but it wouldn't be hard to find a vial that has my name on it.
Bill, if you're watching right now, all right, let's make this happen. Let's contact Dr. Horace. Let's figure out how to do this. Peter, I'm going to follow up with you.
Oh, mate, I would love.
I will follow up weekly.
Yeah.
Until we get to the bottom of this.
That's what I'd like to do. And I don't know how hard it is to open your safe and have a look.
It's not hard. And I'll tell you, it's not hard to have this tested. And nowadays, these tests are affordable. They're done in a timely manner, and they're done more safely than ever. Like to preserve the DNA would be a lot easier today than before.
I met Horace, Dr. Horace Drew. He's been to my house. We've gone out to dinners and stuff like that. So I do trust him. But a lot of people say to me, I bet you they're hiding it. They don't want it tested anymore. They don't want it to be proved any further. And
they proved quite a bit already.
Why would they do that if they didn't want to prove it? So I'd be ecstatic if we could dig it up and have it tested.
Well, let's work on that.
And verified by, because that's a criticism I get, that it wasn't
peer reviewed.
Yep. Yeah.
But I mean, if we find a sizable sample that we're able to do these high throughput sequencings on, we will effectively have all the ingredients to have it peer reviewed.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. And, proving this type of anomaly, although it doesn't prove aliens, it points to aliens.
Yeah.
Because if you look at your story and what has happened to you, and then providing a hair that's being tested to be completely anomalous, I mean, plus it has the CCR5 gene deletion. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This is, this is why I consider this, and I'm sure Bill agrees here, this is probably the most important case. And if we can figure that out, I think that's, for me, one step closer to the whole world waking up to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think we should work on that.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not making this up. I know what I got told. I mean, it's my case. I'm interested in what evidence they had.
Of course.
And then I expected nothing to come from it. I thought, it's just going to be, probably normal human, and that, although I knew they weren't, I don't know. Didn't have high expectations at all.
Is he in Australia as well, Doctor?
Yeah, he's in Australia.
Dr. Drew?
He's like 20 minutes from my house.
You let me know if he
Yeah.
finds it. I'll be on the first flight.
Oh,
And
mate,
I'm going to come down there. We're going to hang out in Australia. We'll document the whole thing to make
honest
sure we
with
got
you,
receipts.
look, when they took the hair from me to
Yeah.
test it, the testing was done over probably a 1 to 2 year period.
Yeah.
But the hair was kept for 10 years all up from the day I gave it to them, 10 years. And I did ask Bill for it a couple of times, and just from forgetting and that, it went, it stretched out a couple of years. And then eventually I said to him, my kids are interested to have it in the family, like they might want to show it to their children one day. And I want the hair back. And within a couple of weeks, he brought it back, and it was in a slide, and he had a letter to show a chain of events.
Results, yeah.
Just a chain of
Oh, right,
events.
yeah,
that
the custody.
That there was proof that he gave it back to me. And, I trusted Bill with it, but I had a lot of people who didn't like Bill for, because he raises the bar so high in his investigations, and that some people can't, catch up or keep up, and they have a go at him. But they used to make really derogatory comments about him, keeping the hair, and I'll never see the hair again. And I knew Bill well enough that he was keeping it
was in
safe.
safe hands.
It was in safe hands, and I trusted him, and eventually I got it. And it's disappointing. It's not very big in the slide, it's only a little bit of hair.
Fine.
But I get a lot of people who say to me, I bet you don't have the hair anymore, thinking that's to catch me out. And I say to them, no, I do. And that's where it shocks them, and they don't know what to say.
Well, we talked about this too before you came here, or like after you got here. You said, you even contemplated bringing it on a flight. I'm glad you didn't. Because I think, something so valuable, I think it's priceless. Yeah. I think if it does provide the information that, could lead to this type of discovery, I think that's priceless. I think that's it's not something you should flippantly throw into your carry-on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want customs grabbing it and getting a hold of it. It's biological and asking where, I didn't want to go into that detail. And,
jeez.
Yeah. And it is fragile.
Yep.
Like it's in a bit of glass. And look, Bill was criticized because it was in a glass slide, and the glass slide cracked. So he didn't want to remove it and put in another one in case he lost it.
Yeah. Lost some part of it.
You could sneeze, you could air blow it. So what I suggested was, let's just put some black tape around it, like frame it, but keep it in that glass.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually covered the cracked section, which is on the other side where the hair is, and that's where it sits. And
perfect, great,
yeah.
And it'll be there, if we want to clone an alien one day.
Mate, that's what I got told early on. They said, imagine what
we've all seen Jurassic Park.
Imagine what we can do, But I don't even know if this sample that I have would have any more DNA in it.
You need very little nowadays.
Yeah.
We've gotten to the point where it's, obviously over time there's some deterioration and whatnot. And yes, the root would provide,
well, I don't have the root.
Yeah.
That was destroyed. Yeah.
But, between the sample that you have currently and what potentially lies in
a safe
somewhere, we might be able to run maybe one last test with the technology that we have today.
Yeah.
And get this thing peer reviewed. And by God, if that won't be the biggest discovery.
Mate, when someone says to me, the head scientist says to me, look, we got minute DNA. It's in a vial. It's in my safe. I remember that. I'm not making it up. I'm not just out of the blue trying to put him in a bad situation.
No.
He we're friends. He supports me.
We're going to follow up.
I've invited him to conferences. It's not like he's,
brushed
it off the cuff now.
No.
I'm sure if he was to dig through, take it, clean out every now and then you should clean out your safe, right?
Yeah.
Clean it out. And if you see that vial, please, let's do something with it.
100% do something.
I'm all for it. Like I'll even pay for it.
While cleaning out the safe, he should invite you over just to make sure that.
True. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
An interesting thing that came up recently that I wanted to mention as well, and I don't know if this caught your attention, But obviously, when speaking about hybridization, a program, teaching, Dr. David Jacobs comes up, his work comes up a lot. But something else came up recently. There was a New York Post article. Have you read this?
About?
So Dr. Max Rempel, he's a Russian geneticist, a molecular biologist who studied 581 families' data and found that the children of 11 of those families had markers in their DNA that didn't match either of the parents.
Wow.
He hypothesizes that it is alien DNA, that this is the result of a hybrid program. So 348 variants in total were found. And the sample was taken. These children were born prior to 1990, so this is before CRISPR. This is before we could have edited the DNA before they're born.
Right.
Out of these 581, 11 families had markers in their genes that showed no signs from either parents. Like that showed, anomalies that did not match, DNA that did not match either parents. And there was 348 of those variants.
So is that suggesting that the parents aren't their real parents?
Yeah. That there are markers in their DNA that don't come from either parents. That their parents are their parents, but there's something in their DNA that is
different,
not from their parents. Now, as everybody knows, you're made of 50% mom and 50% dad.
That's right.
That's how genetics works. It takes a split 50 down the middle, and it makes you part of both.
That's right.
So to have any anomalous sort of variant in the DNA that isn't of either parent is very bizarre. Now,
where does it come from?
Yeah, this is yet to be peer reviewed. He is working on this, but a New York Post article came out. I thought that was incredibly timely because it was last week, and I was having you on this week.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, how interesting that we're getting mainstream about alien DNA.
Yeah.
And hybridization potentially.
It's flabbergasting. Like, I'll look into that because anything that's similar or, supports what I'm trying to prove here. Yeah, no, it's interesting.
And that obviously brings up the whole David Jacobs thing. With David Jacobs, he's done over 1,000 hypnotic regression sessions with abductees, a historian from Temple University. He's written, a plethora of books. I've read through all of them, The Threat, Among Us, It's a heavy topic. And it adds such a strange dimension to the UFO and abduction phenomenon that a lot of people weren't super prepared for. You have guys like Bud Hopkins, John Mack, who saw a more benevolent nature to this.
Yeah. And
then you had Dr. Jacobs really questioning the motives here. What's happening? And then from his regressions being told that this was a program, that they had some secret agenda of taking over, that the hybrids, and when I say hybrids, it's like a hybrid between a gray alien and what seems like a human.
Yeah.
And there are different stages of this hybridization. The early stage, larger heads, wispy hair.
Yeah.
The later stage, hybrids, stage 5, are exactly identical to us. Yeah, unmistakable.
Yeah, humanoid, yeah.
And those would be the ones that live among us, so to speak.
Well, the blonde, definitely the blonde female that I saw was more human.
But she wasn't perfect.
No, not perfect. These distinct little things that stood out.
Yeah.
And you'd notice it straight away. It wasn't like, you had to do testing on it.
Yeah.
Looking at her, you knew she was a humanoid, but wasn't fully human.
It's like a later stage.
Yeah, maybe part of that.
Maybe mid-stage hybrid or something.
Maybe mid-stage in their program, or, they hadn't perfected it yet, but it was perfect enough, for me to...
Anatomically and...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... it's definitely concerning when you hear the amount, again, 1,000 hypnotic regression sessions with Dr. Jacobs. So when you hear over and over and over similar stories of encounters with beings that are on all the spectrum between a gray and a human, and there's always some type of genetic exchange involved.
That's right, yeah.
Whether that's intercourse, whether that's sometimes even just foreplay, or whether that's strictly procedural in like a sort of hospital setting.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Jacob's work, Dr. Jacob's work?
Sure am.
Yeah.
And I think it was in one of his books. I hate doing this, like something that had a profound impact on me. And because of that, I just didn't want to face it head on. I just put it aside because it really affected me. And I believe I was reading one of his books, and my partner and I spent a week trying to go through. I got over 4,000 books in my library, and we're trying to find a couple of authors where I thought, and I think Jacobs was one of them, where I read in his book where he describes, there was some things in there that I was like, oh, there's a big question marks over it and that, and I was questioning the method or so on. And then I come across this lady telling a story, and it just rocked me to my core. And I actually get emotional when I talk about it and think about it. And you can hear my voice actually starting to change because it's affected me already. I'm reading his book, and I'm got a few questions, and then I flick to a new chapter, and there's this lady, and let me get into what I experienced and why that had an impact on me when I read it. I had an experience where I was taken onto a craft, and this craft wasn't your typical saucer shaped or anything. To me, it looked like it was a massive thing. And as we're moving, I could see stars moving really quickly, like flashing by me. And then we got to a point where there was another object similar to the one I was in, but it looked like a building. But they were up in the sky. They weren't on the ground. And it was like we were docking against it. And I was lying on a table, and I could see the windows. I could see stars going past me. And then I see this other building, what I thought was a building, bright white, very, very white. And it had long windows that were very darkly tinted. And as we got closer, I realized, shit, we're either going to crash against it or we're docking against it, And as that happened, I felt myself travel through the wall, but up high towards the ceiling, and go through the other building. And now I'm hovering on the ceiling, looking down, and I'm in this what looked like a room, and a woman in her bed, and she would have been, I'd say she looked Italian background or Spanish, in her 40s. She had dark hair, black hair, probably just to her shoulders, maybe a little bit longer. I mean, she was lying down in her bed. And this is where this really gets me. I started to slowly and gradually drop down towards her, and she's looking at me petrified. Now, whether aliens got us together and made it happen, or she's never experienced anything like it and is freaking out as she's awake and it's not a dream. And as I get closer and closer, as I'm hovering, I'm getting down, and I'm right on top of her. And at this stage, I'm probably a couple of feet away from her face, and I can see her start crying. She really gets me. And I see tears run down her face. And as I got closer and closer to her, and I was inches from her face, and I remember looking her right in the eyes, and she was looking at me petrified, like it just broke me. And I remember looking at her, and I could see how weak she was and how vulnerable. And I just looked in her eyes, and I mouthed to her. I said to her, I'm so, so, so sorry. And I said, so, so sorry 3 times. And things happened, and I knew it wasn't her choice to do it. It wasn't my choice to do it, but it was something that we were forced or bought to do for whatever reason. And then everything's back, and I'm back in the other building or craft or whatever, and I'm moving back, being taken back. But I could never get this image out of my mind that this thing happened, and this woman was so afraid. Fuck. Yeah, just that she was so vulnerable, so upset. And it played on my mind for a long, long time. And then I'm reading this book, and I'm reading that this woman is laying in her bed, and she describes exactly what happened, that a male came down through her roof, through the ceiling, and he was hovering at the top of her roof. And she was freaking out, not knowing what's going on. And then that, slowly come down closer to her. And she says, as he got close to me, she was crying. She describes that she was crying. And then she said, the man actually, while he was inches away from my face, he whispered, "I am so, so, so sorry." And when I read that, it just crushed me. It could have been someone else. It could have been other people who had similar experiences, But I just related to it so much, and I thought it's not fucking fair that we can do that, to people who aren't willing, they're not players in this. They haven't given you permission to do that. And that's where I have an issue with, if you do that to someone and they end up having a child from that interaction, and they're in a relationship, and then later on DNA testing shows that the father's not, that it's not their DNA, the child's not theirs, that woman gets crucified basically, or, insinuations are that she's had an affair, she's been playing up, and maybe she hasn't, and she's so innocent in this. But the DNA points to something obviously happening. And that really, really affected me. It's affected me more than my own personal experiences. And lately, the more I talk about it, the more upset I get.
Man, you have a right to be upset about that.
People have said to me, "Why don't you try and find her?" Why would I want to do that to someone that could crush their life? Like, she might put it down to a dream, a nightmare, and I'm going to go and find her and
Make it real.
And make it so real that we both have to deal with something like that. And I'm not ready to do that,
No.
And even if I know who she is, I probably wouldn't go and, be in her face and try and force the issue,
Yeah.
It'd just confirm that, yeah, something did happen. But I know exactly what she looked like. If I ever saw her, she'd probably aged by now, but I probably
Still recognize her.
I'd recognize her, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry.
No, man. Take your time. Thank you for opening up. I mean, that's clearly not an easy thing to talk about. And that's why I think what you're doing, the work you're doing in the support group and creating that and I know of other support groups that are not public, because there's many of them that are not public, that are not,
I remember
are just similar people who found each other through these experiences, who just, they have nowhere else to turn. And it is so rare that anyone, out there gets to hear these accounts, because these aren't talked about. These are so personal and so dark that it's not something not a lot of people are open to sharing. So I want to thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I remember Bud Hopkins and John McMahon, they both rest in peace. Like, they had such an impact on my life. But I remember both of them making the comment that for someone who's having the experience and hasn't really dealt with it, like, I'm tough enough, I can handle it. It's this sort of thing that crushes me. Aliens I can deal with. Do it to me, I don't care. But when you're doing it to my kids or someone else and putting us in that situation, it does affect me, Like, as much as I'm interested in it, in that thing, and I just don't want it to happen to my kids.
Yeah, of course.
And,
of course.
They've asked me not to, and recently they've actually, I think because of the divorce and all that, they're taking a harder stand. And they've asked me not to talk about things about them, or so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
And we got to respect that too.
yeah,
Those stories, and for anyone listening out there who, hears this and thinks like, what am I listening to? What is this? Like, what do you mean? I would highly suggest you check out some of at least Dr. David Jacobs' books. Start with The Threat. I think it would give you a broader worldview of what experiencers have gone through. There is a wide range of this phenomenon that you might not be aware of because mainstream or, whatever legacy media, they're talking nuts and bolts. They're talking little green men. There's a whole other dimension to this. And that dimension is, pretty dark, and it talks, and and that's not to say it's evil. I don't think it's to put something in a category I think is dangerous as well, but it's definitely, lacks any type of human moral.
Yeah.
And it deals with a lot of this hybridization thing happening, whether it's human to human, human to ET.
Yeah.
There's so many different phases of this type of thing that's out there. So I would,
we've got people struggling to understand the physical UFO itself.
Yeah.
What it can do, what it can't do. And they try and compare it to our technology. It's so far advanced that they can do things that, our military, our best, even reverse engineered. So we just can't do it. But that's all they're looking at. They're not looking at why are they even interacting with us. They're not just interacting with us to show us the UFOs flying around or, landing or whatever. They're here and their agenda is completely different than ours. And, we want to prove that, these UFOs exist. They're solid objects, they're real. But I think from their point of view, the UFOs are the least important part of it. It's what they're doing with the human race.
Yep.
That's making a lot of changes. And I remember Professor John Mack used to say he was more interested in the transpersonal,
in the non-physical.
And the effect it had, and it transformed people and the way they thought. And it wasn't just because they saw the UFO. It was the reason for why they're here in the first place. Like they've been here, I believe they've been here for thousands of years, and if not from the beginning. And they've been interacting with us for a long, long time. And, there's proof that they've been here and they've interacted with people. And like there's cave paintings, thousands of years old that they're not faked. What people see, they try and depict, whether it's in a rock carving or you want to portray an image of what you saw. And I think it's been happening for so long. It's just frustrating that we're still to try and fully understand what's going on, and it's affecting millions of people around the world. It's not just me. And I found that out real quick early on. There are people that just don't want to talk about it. I think they probably fear it and they're just not ready to talk about it. They don't want to. Maybe they never will.
Yeah.
And that's why I decided to go public with my story. My original idea of going public, and I was one of the first Australians to go public
about abductions.
Yeah. And the reason I did that, it wasn't to get be on a TV show and I've actually knocked back so many TV shows. Some of the popular TV shows, like we used to have Kerry Ann Kennelly, who did a morning show and invited me on there, and I declined. And I've declined numerous ones. Even Rove McManus used to, he had a very popular show. It was a late night show. He invited me on there as well. And unfortunately, His wife passed away 2 weeks before I was supposed to appear, so the whole show got canned. He just dropped the whole show. He was devastated at the loss of his wife. But there's been a few, and it's not me chasing these things to do them. I pick and choose. And the reason I started the support group, the reason I went public, was to reach the people who didn't have the voice or the courage to speak up. And I thought, if they hear me talk about my story, hopefully they'll feel confident enough to talk about theirs. And it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of people. I got a message on my phone yesterday and it said, thank you for being the voice for those who don't have one. And it's out of fear. It's out of the ridicule factor. It's out of all that they don't have a voice. But I'm hoping, in the future that more people will come out and hopefully have better experiences than mine to put, as evidence, and hopefully someone will come forward. As I said to you, we've had a number of people come forward and say they've got hair samples.
And that they had similar experiences with similar beings.
Same beings, a blonde and an Asian female, very, very similar scenario, and that they found the hair on their private part, on their penis as well, and that they removed it and put it in a drawer or dropped it on the ground and they went back and got it. Hopefully in the future we might get 1 or 2 or 3 or more. And testing isn't cheap, but I think when these opportunities come up, money's not an option. We should be doing it.
I think there are plenty of people out there willing to fund the testing, and the testing has gotten relatively cheap compared to what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, I think maybe like $1,000 or something to have something tested
it used to
now.
be a lot more before.
It used to be a lot more.
Yeah.
And we get results back, within a day.
Wow.
Versus weeks of painstaking testing.
Yeah. Look, sometimes I say to my partner, why did they just leave 2 hairs? Why couldn't it be a clunk of hair or, but.
Hey, they left 2.
They left 2. Yeah.
One for you, one for us.
Well, that's how it turned out. Yeah. Yeah. And, I really honestly now, I don't want this hair destroyed.
No, of course.
I want to keep it. Not that I want to sell it or, to me, it's priceless.
You already have the provenance of the whole chain of custody, but also the test results of everything that hair provided.
Yeah.
So I think that itself is worth everything. Like I said earlier, there is a need to have this, scientifically backed just for the masses.
Yeah.
But for someone like yourself, there's no real need there. And for someone like me, I mean, I'm very blown away by what we've already been able to discover with this stuff.
I remember Professor John Mack sitting at my house, and when he had the sample in his hand, never handled it. It was in the bag. It was always in the bag. It never was taken out of the bag. No one ever touched it. And I remember him holding it and actually looking at me in the eyes and saying, I truly believe this is an alien hair. Like he had no question about it. And John got to know me on a personal level. It started off, he's doing research.
Yeah.
It's a good case. He wanted to, but as soon as John and I met from the first day, we just hit it off and we didn't leave each other's side. Like him, John, Dominique, Vivian, my ex, and myself, any free moment they had, any free time, they were with us. We'd go sightseeing, we'd do things with my family, and we become close friends. And I think it was on the back of that I had this experience, but I never tried to push it on him. I never tried to sell it, and shove it in his face, and this should be tested and all that. As a matter of fact, when we held the support group workshop, I didn't talk about my case at all, introduced everybody else. And then I think I mentioned this yesterday. On the way home, he asked me, why did you specifically not mention your case at all? I want to hear about it, I said, John, this workshop was for the people who needed it more than I did. And he respected that. He found that a bit admirable that,
of course,
that I would do something like that. And
I mean, your whole life has been, from what I can tell, filled with a bunch of selfless acts, from putting your life in danger, stepping in front of someone, helping someone, when they're in danger, and then now, protecting and giving a voice to these people, and I think that goes a long way. And I think maybe someone is, as brilliant as John Mack was, I think that was easily detected for him.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I have put my body on the line in an armed robbery.
Yeah.
And I had a shotgun to my head, like for 7 minutes in an 8-minute robbery, and people praised me for it. People said I saved their life. I didn't save their life, but
You did.
I didn't endanger their life.
I think you did save their life. I think
maybe, but
you showed me a letter. So you showed me a letter yesterday that that you received from one of the people that was implicated in this. That was one of the hostages.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you were the one who had the gun to your head, and you were keeping everybody calm. And the letter was praising you how you were able to take control of the situation even more so than the people holding them hostage.
Yeah.
And had the foresight to hit the silent alarm, trigger the silent alarm without them knowing.
Yeah.
And then once they stepped out of the building to fill up the car for whatever reason, you were able to lock them out of the building as well, and thus save everyone's life.
There was an addition to that I didn't mention to you. When they did go out, I thought the gunman, because I could see the way he was holding the shotgun, because he was carrying money as well. I seen the car pull up out the front of the door of the club, and I seen someone jump in the back seat, and I thought it was the gunman. And then there was another guy who had a crowbar, and I thought he was still in the club. So when I locked the doors, I was assuming I'm going to have to deal with this guy.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And I thought the gunman's locked outside. I can deal with this guy. And then I realized that the guy who jumped in the back of the car
Was the crowbar
was
guy.
the crowbar guy, and the car took off and left the gunman behind. I mean, if you put that in a movie, it'd be so funny, but so dangerous at the same time. So the guy that was left behind, the gunman, he was pointing the gun through the door. It was a door, an airlock, and another door. And, I probably would have been, I'd say, 10, 12 meters away from him. And he was pointing the gun at me through the door, the shotgun, saying, open the fucking door and I'm going to shoot you. And I was like, F you, I'm not opening nothing. And the board of directors, they had a meeting that night, and there was a couple of them saying, Peter, open the door, he's going to shoot you. And I'm like, F him, I'm not going to open the door. And then the car came back, he jumped in the back, and they took off. And as they left, drove past the police car, drove past them. Then the police came in and said to me, oh, you're going to get upset. We had to let them go. They didn't even try to stop them.
No way.
Yeah, they had to let them go. And I struggled with that because I thought I put my life on the line, and then the cops who were fully armed and trained, just let them go,
Well, you did, you kept calm during a very, very high stress situation.
Yeah.
Do you think part of your experiences with the phenomenon had prepared you for that in some way?
Yeah. I think my training and background, did a bit of martial arts, and I lived a bit of hard life early on, probably from the age of about 18 to 25.
Yeah.
I'd been through some crazy situations and survived it, and I think that gave me strength to
deal with the other stuff.
Yeah, and I've had a shotgun to my head, I've had a revolver to my head, and I've different scenarios here, and I've had a pistol to my head, and I can tell you one was for 45, and one was a revolver, and the one who pulled the pistol out whipped me. He put it to my head, and I thought, last breath. But luckily for me, he wasn't strong enough to pull a trigger. He was just a showman, and he hit me with the butt of the gun on the back of my head. And I was like, yeah, you're soft. You're not, you haven't got it in you. Thank God. Yeah. And, 12 of his friends attacked my car, and, mate, I did nothing wrong other than park outside his shop and order a hamburger from the shop next door. And this guy thought he owned the whole, road. It's a public road. And he tapped on his window and he said to me, you 5 minutes, touch his watch. He goes, 5 minutes, move. And I was thinking, is he talking to me? Like, why would he talk to me? So I ordered the hamburger. I sat on the front of my car and I had one bite of this hamburger and I get another tap on the window and there's 12 guys sitting in there with him. He was their boss. And I'm like, I'm looking around me, why? The street signs didn't say no parking. There was no reason. And then he taps his watch again. He goes, over, 5 minutes over. So stupid me, I'm not scared of that. I walked into the shop with all his 12 mates and I walked straight up to him at his desk and he had his feet up on the desk, being a big man. And I said, mate, are you talking to me? And he goes, yeah, I told you before, 5 minutes you need to move your car. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to use a bit of language here. I said, when did your father die and you inherited Canterbury Road, you dumb piece of shit? And as soon as I said that, he opened the drawer, pulled out a material bag, which is a bank bag. You take your cash there, and pulled out a 45, cocked it, and just walked up and put it straight to my head. So I wasn't going to be stupid. I walked out the shop and I went outside. And as soon as I went, he had it, as I'm walking through the shop, he had it to the back of my head. And I'm thinking, this is my last breath, And as I walked out, as I stepped off the footpath onto the road to go to my door and get in my car, he hit me with the butt of the gun.
Clocked you.
And as soon as he did that, I thought, you're soft. You haven't got it in you, mate. You're just showing off.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
But luckily for me.
Luckily for you, he was.
Luckily for me.
He was just showing off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of stuff that'll, man, those are all pretty traumatizing events from getting clocked over the head multiple times with a shovel to having a gun to your head to then having the ET experiences. Out of all of those, which has been the most traumatic? It's got to be the ET stuff, right?
Other than that 2008 experience with the female, I can handle the ET stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And you know what? People say to me, oh, are you scared it'll happen again? No. It's like a learning curve for me. And not every human on this planet can say they've had those interactions.
No.
Yeah. So I'm not scared of it. I'm not scared of the ET stuff.
Well, maybe that's why you were chosen, you think?
Maybe.
Because there is something, man, I got to say, there is something about you having conscious memory.
Yeah.
That's not something you hear about very often with this stuff. They don't like to make mistakes, these things, it seems like, and they don't make very many.
No, they don't, but they've made a few with me.
Yeah, and if they do, it's I would assume it's anomalous. And so I would assume there's something with you that, prevented that type of whatever that is, that sedation that they do, or the,
switching you off.
Yeah, the cognizant sort of dampening of your spirit or mind or whatever that is, and they shut you off. Like there's something that didn't work. And, it reminds me of Travis Walton, who we had here, as a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Travis, being beamed by this craft because he got too close, woke up in excruciating head pain and chest pain, thought he was dying, didn't know how long he's been there, and now faced with these beings, terrified, yelling at them, fending them off, they weren't able to psychically or otherwise
wipe his mouth.
Or keep him down.
Yeah.
And then, making his way to the other room, getting stopped by these humanoid looking sort of aliens, I guess. They grab him, and them also, they had to use an analog sedation on him. They had to put something over his mouth so that he passed out. And again, he even thinks that he reckons that maybe whatever hit him messed his brain or did something where it interfered with their ability, whatever that is, whether that's tech, psychic, whatever that is, psionic, to put him under.
To put him on, yeah. Look, I spoke to Travis. I'm sure if Travis, if he meets me and he remembers the trip to Queensland and what we went through, it was a funny trip. But we were in the car talking, and it was myself, Travis, and his ex Dana. She was sitting in the back seat, and we're talking about my experience, and I'm, being bluntly honest with him about everything that happened to me. He's probably one of the first people, other than Bill, and that I really opened up to, and I wanted him to know my whole story, And as we were sitting there, we're driving, and look, he'll attest to this. I asked him, I said, can I ask you one question about your story? And he said, yep, you've been telling me about yours. You're welcome, ask me. I said, do you think you were fatally wounded and that's why they took you for 5 days or a longer period than usual? And he actually had a tear run down his face, and Dana put a hand on my shoulder and she said, he doesn't talk about this to too many people. And Travis looked over at me and he said, yeah, I think it was. And they had to work on me to get me back.
Yeah.
I don't know if he shared. I think he has lately shared
he did share that. And that's something he only came to terms with publicly later on upon, years of reflection.
Yeah. I knew that early on. I knew that the reason he was taken for so long was to get him back.
Yeah. Because like he said, he's like, otherwise they could have dumped me on a meteor somewhere. Like, what's the point of bringing me back, Yeah. So he's like, there had to be.
But they could have dumped him in the area where he went missing.
Yeah, or just left him.
And then
not dumped him at all.
People in his crew would have been probably charged with murder or.
They almost were.
They almost were, yeah.
They almost were. Had he not returned, for whatever reason. Had he not been found, that's what would have happened.
That's what would have happened, yeah. And that was from the investigation from day one, was focusing on getting these guys blamed for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Yep.
It's coming up on 50 years, that story, too.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah. And end of this year, isn't it?
Yeah, November 5th, 1975.
Wow. You know what sort of blows me away a little bit? I had my experience 88, 92, and then I talk about my childhood stuff, which that was in the background, so to speak. But this DNA case and that book was published 2005, I believe. It just boggles my mind that it's taken 33 years for the American scene to get onto this case. And I get questioned now like it happened yesterday. And I tell them, it happened 33 years ago. Where have you been? Like some of them don't even know about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there in the field haven't heard of my case. And it boggles Bill's mind because he says to me, it was in the IU article, and apparently that was the highest selling IU article in the history. He's got his book, and he still says people get the story wrong when they're telling it. And some of them say they don't even know about it. He was talking to, was it Jerome Clark? I think it was, he wrote the UFO Encyclopedia. And Bill was blown away that when he was talking to him recently, he goes, just remind me about that case again, And he said, every researcher should know this.
Yeah, this is one of those that I highly recommend anyone, read Hair of the Alien by Bill Chalker. Also, you got a book coming out that you're writing.
I hope so. I've been writing it for a couple of years now, and you never want to rush a book until you feel good.
I think you should write a book. I'm surprised that you haven't.
Well, the reason I haven't is because every time I'm speaking to people, I hear the comments, people calling in or whatever, and they're like, he's just doing it to write a book and make money.
The grifter or all those stupid comments. You don't worry about those.
So I really didn't want to give him ammunition and,
you know. The people, here's what I always say. The people who go, he's just trying to sell a book. You just told me without telling me that you don't read. Because when I hear somebody's coming out with a book, I go, oh, yay, another book.
Yeah.
Because I read and I like reading.
That's right, yeah.
So people who go, not another book, you're just telling the world that you don't read books.
You don't read books,
Because I get excited for a new book.
And I mean, who wouldn't want to hear it from the horse's mouth?
Of course.
Instead of, reading somebody that's written about it.
Yeah.
And it's been written in a number of books that are coming out now. And I'm surprised at how wrong they get things.
Yeah, Bill's got it pretty right.
Bill's got it pretty right.
I would also argue that if you are a skeptic out there and you do like reading, right? But you're like, oh, I can't believe this stuff. Fine. You know what? Get a book and read it as if it was fiction. Just read it as if it was fiction.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it'll still be entertaining.
Yeah.
And who knows? By the end of it, you might change your mind.
You might change your mind. Exactly.
All right, Peter, I'm going to get, we got some questions from the audience.
Yeah.
So I got a few of them lined up. I'm going to go turn on this camera back here.
And let's just touch on that high
Oh, the high strangeness stuff. Yeah.
stuff. And I do want to touch base on the scratches and that on my body. And
okay. Yeah.
This is physical. This is, evidence-based.
Well, let's do this now. We can get the questions later. They're not going anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2025, in 2020, I should say, and that was the year my dad passed. In 2020, I worked in security at a New Year's Eve event. I went home. I probably finished about 1:30, 2 o'clock. Got home, sat down. I'd take a couple of hours to wind down. I might have to read or watch a bit of TV. I can't just get home, put my, clothes on, just change and go to bed. So it was, I'll never forget this. It was 4:45 and I've documented it. I even rang my niece at that time and I said to her, if something happens to me, I didn't do it to myself. I'm not self-harming. But as I'm sitting there, I had shorts on. I was wearing shorts and I was watching TV and it was 4:55 in the morning. And I felt a burning sensation, like really bad burning sensation on my right leg. And I've got a couple of tattoos on my ankles, on my calf. I've got 2 on my back and that. But as I'm sitting there, I felt on the inside of my ankle, I felt really bad burning, like, it was like acid burn. And I rubbed my hand up and down. I thought, what the hell is this, And I looked and I couldn't see anything when I looked at my leg. But when I touched my hand, it felt wet. There was moisture. And I didn't see much. And I thought, oh, okay. And then as I looked down, I see a scratch starting, and I've got a UFO tattoo. It's like a cartoon UFO tattoo on the inside of my ankle. And halfway through that, like right in the middle of that, started under it and went all the way up. And it probably went, 3 inches above. And as I'm watching this scratch come up my leg. And once I got my phone out to film it, I reckon I filmed about maybe 2 to 5 mil of movement, and then it stopped. And I thought, oh, geez, what is this? And within less than a minute, I felt on the inside of my knee, my right leg, I felt burning sensation again. And when I looked, I saw massive scratches, and it went all the way down my leg. So I had a scratch through my UFO tattoo. I had a scratch all the way up the side of my thigh. And then on the top of, like on my knee, just on the side of my knee, this is 3 different times in about a couple of minutes where I felt this burning sensation. And when I'd look, I'd see a massive scratch. And these scratches were odd. It was like, someone said to me they look like Morse code because it's a long line of dot. Yeah.
Whoa. Have you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've got photos. I think I've sent them to you.
Yeah. Have you ever tried deciphering them?
No, I haven't.
Maybe I'll try.
Maybe, yeah.
Throw it into ChatGPT or something.
You never know. But so my whole left leg the next day was just, it looked like it was being slashed. Yeah.
Wow.
And
this was on your bed, you said, or was it?
No, this is in the lounge room.
Just sitting on the couch?
I'm in the TV room watching my TV, and I felt, I went, whoa, what's that?
What year was this?
2020.
2020. Oh, right, yeah.
1st of the 1st,
yeah,
2020 at 4:55 in the morning. So the first day of the year at, 5 to 5 in the morning. That year in September, on my son's birthday, the 21st, my dad passed away. So, anyway, now, 2024 last year, my partner, my new girlfriend was sitting next to me in the lounge room. We're sitting there and, again, I felt the burning sensation. And I said, hey, babe, I'm feeling that burning again, And she goes, oh, let me have a look. and she was blown away. She actually saw the scratch as it's traveling up my leg, and she got a phone to film it, and as soon as she put it to it, it stopped. But I'd say it was 3 or 4 scratches, but the funniest thing that I've found, it happened on the 1st of the 1st.
Oh,
Yeah. One was at 2020, and this was the same date. It was probably about half an hour difference in time.
yeah.
So I think it was just past 5 o'clock, 20 past 5 or something. But she was sitting next to me, and she was watching these scratches appear on my leg.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
what do you suppose that is?
Look, at first, when it first happened, I thought, had I been standing up too much at work and I got inflammation or, something like that? But it wasn't, definitely wasn't. And then when it happened 4 years later, my fear was that, oh my God, is my mum, something going to happen to my mum, because my dad passed away when I had that early in the year.
Right.
And I went and seen my mum a couple of days ago, and she's not looking the best. So I'm hoping we can get through and, nothing happens. But yeah, I've had these strange things that have happened to me. I had on my back, on my shoulder blade, on the left side, I had, once again, I got this burning sensation, and I was like, what the hell? And when I had a look, it was like a bite mark.
Whoa.
Like you can actually see the shape of a mouth, a bite mark.
That's so
And
strange.
I'm sure I sent you those photos again.
Yeah.
You're welcome to use them if you want to include them in
Will do.
when you do all this.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I've heard of, there's a lot of cases of this sort of poltergeist sort of activity. And I call it poltergeist because there's no other real term for it. It's a phantom sort of something that leaves physical trace, physical markings. And, that is, I think, where your case, the later case actually intersects between the physical and the non-physical again, because, to go back to this for a second, had you not had the DNA evidence,
I wouldn't have gone public.
You wouldn't have gone public.
No.
And I wouldn't have blamed you.
Yeah.
I think and it just begs the question, how many people out there have dismissed what happened to them, either because the lack of evidence or because over time you just kind of go, maybe it was in my head, or maybe, you know what I mean? You rationalize things as time moves on, your memory fades, and your brain has to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So it starts making up its own reality. But there is a weird intersection, and even John Mack talks about this too, that people are barely ready for the physical. Wait till they hear about the non-physical shit that happens.
Right, yeah.
Because not only is there a non-physical, very, very present phenomenon that happens during abductions specifically, even your brother seeing your soul being transported out of the room, this type of astral body seems to be abducted just as much as the physical, if not more.
Yeah, if not more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there is this weird overlap of when the non-physical affects the physical.
That's right.
You had this sitting up moment on your bed where you come into yourself.
Yeah.
And then you see these beings, and who knows what they were doing, if they were interacting with your soul body or your physical body, or
I truly believe that they were.
Yeah, that there was some type of...
And they lost control at one stage when I became one.
Yeah.
It was physical.
Yeah, and then maybe it made them physical or something.
Yeah, it just put them off their routine.
Because even then, they disappear as if they were non-physical.
That's right, yeah. They vanish out of the blue. I don't know how they came into my room, and I don't know how they left.
And so there is like a non-physical to physical quality, and then it goes back to non-physical.
Yeah.
And it's this sort of weird, but then you're left with physical evidence.
Yeah.
And the most evidence people have when it comes to this stuff is normally bodily harm, physical markings.
Yeah, scoop
marks, scratches, things like this, bruises, even burns, radiation burns, sickness, implants, like all these different things. But, never actual DNA. That's just.
And talking about implants,
Yeah.
from my 88
Oh, that's right.
experience, when I had something injected in here.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1992 when I had the head injury, and I was looking at getting some CAT scan. The next day, actually, that very next day, I was going to go get a CAT scan. And I honestly believe they played a role in saving my life, because I had my injuries were life-threatening injuries. It wasn't just a scratch. And to me, I feel like that whatever was implanted in there, the night before, I was sitting down with Vivian in the lounge room, and I was just, I don't know why, but I was just touching the area, and I'm thinking, I'm going to do a CAT scan. I'm claustrophobic. I hate going through those CT scans. And I'm touching it, and all of a sudden I felt like a wire, like steel wool, just pricking my finger. And I was like, wow, what is that? It's in my head. And I said to Vivian, I said, can you have a look? There's something there like a wire. She had a look. She couldn't see anything. And then she felt, and she's gone, oh, it pricked her, and she was like, oh, she reacted to it. She's like, oh my God. She goes, there's a wire there. She said an antenna. She actually said, oh, it feels like an antenna, but it's sharp. And as I was sitting there, I had the coffee table in front of me, and I was sitting there, and I just kept picking at it. I don't know, it annoyed me. And I just kept picking at it. And then we both saw it. It was big as a match head, I'd say. We saw it fall, hit the coffee table. We heard the sound it made, and then it bounced off and landed on the carpet.
Like a metallic sound?
Yeah. We had
and it fell on the carpet.
It fell on the carpet, and we had shaggy carpet at the time. That's before we renovated and cleaned the carpet. And and it was frustrating because we couldn't see it.
You vacuumed.
We knew where. So we went. Yeah. I went and got a little vacuum. I put a tissue on the front of it, on the nozzle of it, and I tried to, see if we can get it out of there. I mean, because it had a wire or whatever tricked me, I reckon it got stuck in the carpet and it was hard to come out.
Yeah.
Or it disintegrated. I don't know. But we both saw it hit the table and bounce onto the carpet, but we couldn't find exactly where it landed. And
that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's like, again, echoing Travis Walton, where he had an injury which prevented them from doing something. Were you implanted with something as a young child, and those head injuries that you sustained messed that up?
Yeah.
And then it was slowly coming out of your body, just like when a dog, bites onto a porcupine, the quills will eventually make their way out.
That's right. Yeah.
Was your body like all of a sudden this thing was shook loose, and your body was like, oh, we need to eject.
No, I think it was there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But because I was doing the scan, I was going to do a CT scan.
Yeah, it was like, we need to get out.
We need to get it out. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's what I believed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's definitely cases. I think David Jacobs as well mentions that. David Jacobs, and perhaps there was another one, might have been John Mack, but cases definitely were, there's a woman who she was pregnant. She had no reason to be pregnant.
Yeah.
But then found out she knew. Oh no, who was this? This was this was somebody I talked to over the phone. She knew she was pregnant. She just knew.
Yeah.
Like she had a feeling. She's like, oh my God, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend or her husband was like, what are you talking about? It's impossible, right? Got a pregnancy test, showed she was pregnant.
Wow.
And then went to the doctor. Doctor said she was pregnant. And then when she, I think, considered having an abortion, was where all of a sudden the next day she wasn't pregnant.
Right.
As if like,
something was removed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there is also, Whitley Strieber talks about his abduction, his implant being evasive.
Yeah.
in that, they tried to get it out, but then it would move. And like, it seems like, I think Lou Elizondo also talks about it in his book, Imminent, that there was another case of an evasive implant.
I actually seen Whitley Strieber doing an investigation with Dr. Roger Lee, I believe, and there was an implant in a lady's arm. And as they would put the scalpel next to it, the cut, it would move.
It would move, yeah.
There's video of it.
Like there's some sentient technology there.
Yeah.
And even I think it was described as it was coated in some type of membrane.
That's right, yes.
That mimicked, human membrane, that the body wouldn't secrete it or try to,
get
repel
rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so strange. But I mean, it's not that hard to believe if you're going, like if we're talking about aliens, right? We're talking about technology and possibly civilization that exists, millions, if not billions of years ahead of ours, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then, where would we go with that? Where would our mind go with that? It would go to the same types of tech, right? So you can reverse engineer from a lot of these cases the technology and be like, yeah, we would go there too.
Yeah.
That's what we would end up doing. We would have, gravity manipulation. We would have all of these
definitely,
strange, technologies.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you said you had questions from the audience. I don't want to let that.
No, we're going to get to it. I'm not going to let that slide.
Yeah.
Definitely not going to let that slide. One thing I did want to mention that we didn't touch on, but I know there might be some comments out there. I'm foreseeing some comments. If we think about physical evidence in terms of abductions or in terms of just UFOs in general, it's very, very scarce. You're not going to find a lot, but there was this wave of angel hair. And that's not to be mistaken with this hair. It's a totally different thing.
Totally different thing, yeah.
Angel hair, there was this one famous soccer game, I think in Italy.
It's emitted from the object. It's not actual hair that we're talking about. They call it angel hair.
Yeah, there was this flyover where 1,000 people saw these UFOs and these wispy strands came down or whatever it was. But a lot of that too, there is radioactive chaff that they used to do. I think during the Cold War, they used to drop it out of planes because it was made of like fiberglass as well, and it would throw off radar. Like radar would, exactly. So if they're flying through somewhere, they would drop this stuff in the atmosphere. And
well, even Bill Chalker, he had experience where the craft dropped angel hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have guys like Chris Bledsoe and others who, see this molten sort of dripping, and it leaves this, and then that was taken by NASA, I believe it was, and was never given back to him.
Yeah,
but
the usual.
We hear about a lot of that stuff. We hear about Art's parts, Art Bell, who had parts of a craft and all sorts of stuff that seems anomalous, but never DNA. This is a big one, Peter. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. I obviously don't have to tell Bill that, but Dr. Horace Drew, please, if you're listening, if anybody knows this guy,
your safe needs a bit of cleaning out.
To say
Mate,
the least.
I'm happy to go there and help him do it.
Yeah, I think you should.
I'm not making this up. I would not make it up. I would not put him in that position.
Of course.
When he said to me, DNA is at its toddler stage.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what could happen in a couple of years. We have a vial that has DNA. It's minute DNA, but it's DNA from your case.
We can replicate it.
We can. Who knows what we can do?
Speaking of PCR, we kind of glossed over this a little bit, but what was his name? The guy who
Dr. Kary Mullis.
Dr. Kary Mullis, very interesting guy, Nobel laureate, won a Nobel Prize for PCR.
He was driving to his cabin in the woods, and the PCR method was just downloaded to him.
Yeah, and that same cabin that he was driving towards happened to also be, he's the only Nobel Prize winner to ever mention somewhat of an abduction.
And so did his daughter and a couple of the guests that attended that party. Some of them actually left because they were scared. Yeah,
they were so scared. So what happened to him, he was coming home one night, or he was walking. He was walking through, he lives in a remote area. And he sees this glowing owl.
Raccoon.
Oh, it was a raccoon. That's right. No,
raccoon.
I mixed up the owls from Whitley.
Yeah.
But sort of this glowing raccoon that is talking to him. And then all of a sudden, he's sort of teleported in time and space at a different area, I think in
Yeah.
his house or something,
That's right. Yeah.
hours later. And he's like, that's weird. And kind of like moves on from
Yeah.
there, where the rest of us are like, all right, we know it. We think we know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I think, was it Bill who had mentioned to him, you should check out Whitley's book?
Yeah.
And he's like, I already have.
Yeah.
And in Whitley's book, obviously, it mentions this thing called screen memories, where a lot of experiencers and people who've been abducted have talked about how they interface with often an owl, but sometimes a deer or a different type of animal.
Yeah, it's something that you feel comfortable with.
That's right. Like even traumatically, your brain will
Yeah.
create like the image of something that you can make sense
You
of.
you can relate. Yeah.
Yeah, so
handle.
it'd be like owls in your room or something,
Yeah.
and so and then his daughter had a similar experience, and then also a guest. He was having a party for this for winning the Nobel Prize. 2-day party, I believe. It was quite the bender.
Yes, it was. Yeah, true.
And then the next day,
Then I had a party.
yeah, the next day there was the first day there was a guy there who said there was a glowing man that he had seen and whatever, and he also had like some type of time slip, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then the next day he came to the party and he saw the same man, which happened to be the neighbor of this doctor.
That's right.
And just upon seeing him, turned his car around,
Freaked him out. Yeah.
and thought it was some sick prank.
Yeah.
And then didn't end up talking to the doctor for a long time, thinking that he pranked him with
Trying
this,
to play. Yeah.
Yeah. So strange.
It is. It is. And I'll tell you another strange thing that one of the psychologists that was involved in our group, female, Argentinian background, when she was younger, she met this male, and very strange. And he told her he was an alien, and she didn't believe it. And he said to her, one day I will come back into your life as an owl, right? She let it go for many years. Now, for some reason, she had scans done. She might have thought she had cancer or something, and she had scans done on her shoulder blade, back of her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And in the x-ray, and I've got a photo where it shows the scar that she has on her skin,
No.
but it goes straight through the bone. She's got a hole big as a Australian 50 cent, straight through the bone in her shoulder. And she was telling me the story, and she said to me, and this male said to me, in the future, I will come back to you as an owl. And you wouldn't believe this. She invited me to a barbecue to her house, and Professor John Mack was in Australia at the time, and it was the day he was flying out. So my wife and I at the time, we dropped John and Dominique at the airport, and we wanted to stay with them. And John was like, no, please go to she invited him as well, but because of the schedule, he couldn't. Yeah. So he said, no, please, Peter, leave us here. Go. You don't need to wait. Mate, we leave the airport. We get to Elwood, which is like 15-minute drive from the airport. John rings me and he says, Peter, I wish you stayed. He said, our flight's been delayed by 5 hours. So it broke my heart, And I said, John, I'm coming to get you right now. And he said, no, we've already checked in. We're not allowed to check back out and leave. So don't worry, we'll be okay, And I said, look, Beatrice is here. She wants to talk to you. So I put her on the phone, and she wanted him to come over and meet him and that, but at least she did it over the phone. And while we're there, she's on the phone with John, right? And she comes out to give me the phone, and I said, Beatrice, have a look at what's on your garage roof.
No way.
Pitched roof, the garage, it's tiled roof, right? An owl is sitting there. And she's like, oh my God, wow. The owl takes off. She goes into that room 20 minutes later. She goes into her bedroom, and she's got a bay window, and the window was open, and the owl was sitting inside her room on the windowsill.
No way.
And she called me, and myself, my partner, my wife, and her partner, we all came, and we stood there, and this thing didn't fly away, didn't get scared, didn't do anything. It just sat there. And she was like, do you remember the story I told you?
Whoa.
He said he'd come back as an owl. Yeah. And I'm just relaying that because of,
Yeah. The
you know,
owls seem to have like an interesting, more so than any other animal, seem to be related to like the ETs in some way. There is a talk. Do you know about this talk? I'm gonna be rude and use my phone for a second because I want to find this. I'll try to link it below about different cases where, you know, owls have showed up either before or after abduction.
yeah.
And not as screen memories, as actual, you know, owls. So it's just almost like they have a sense of things. Katya asks, do you think the being with the milky skin is similar to the tall white Charles Hall had encounters with? Are you familiar with?
Yeah. I am. I couldn't say if it's like the same race, but very similar, possibly. But I mean, look at us.
Yeah.
We're, you know, human, but how many different forms of us are there, you know? You got different colored humans, you got tall humans, short humans, you know? And, but yeah, I'd say it would really, yeah, close enough.
Something we didn't touch on either. Yesterday, you mentioned, during the regression that you had with Dr. Mack that you heard them chirping back and forth. Charles Hall also mentions that with the beings.
Yeah.
That they also communicate in these high pitched. Often you can't even hear it. It's so high pitched.
Oh, I could hear it.
Yeah.
But it was just so many of them at the same time. It was actually, I've heard birds chirp and it irks me sometimes because it reminds me of it. And it was like, you know, 20 birds chirping at once and chattering and talking to each other. Yeah.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. '67 China Cat asks, given the number of times you've been visited, are you expecting more throughout your life?
I definitely think it's a lifelong experience, and I don't think they lose interest on you at a certain age. Yeah, I'd be expecting more. I look forward to it. It doesn't scare me. You know, the actual interaction that happens. I think I'm in a way blessed to go through it, and maybe being the type of person I am, I don't let it get to me. But I mean, obviously that incident with that female did, but I don't think I've ever shed a tear over the interaction with aliens.
Yeah.
And, you know, I look forward to more experiences. I just learn a little bit more every time. And yeah, I'll probably look forward to it. It's not something that scares me.
Well, I think I speak for many people in saying it would scare the daylights out of most people.
Yeah. Look,
the ontological shock alone is, you know, force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think because it's happened to me since I was a kid, I'm sort of used to it. And let's face it, I haven't been hurt, damaged in any way physically, or maybe mentally they get to you a little bit, you know, but I've learned to live through it. And I've been through more horrific and dangerous situations as a human being with human beings, interacting with human beings, than I have with any aliens, you know?
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question. Cosmic Dorcas, great name. Do you have any theory about what causes some people to be switched off during encounters?
Yeah, I think most people get switched off, but I think that whatever method they use doesn't work on everyone. And
do you think it's a technological or a mix of technology or purely psychic? Or it could be any or both?
I think it goes back to the person that's having the experience. Yeah, for some reason, I believe that they can't switch off my memory where they can wipe other people's, and people just confused and don't know what's going on, and they question it. yeah,
Goodbye.
and maybe there are reasons why people do get switched off because maybe they just can't handle it.
Speaking of switched off,
There you go. Wow.
the TV just switched off.
Wow.
How wild is that? That's
Yeah.
never happened before.
Wow.
All right.
Geez, someone's trying to say something.
Yeah, we're talking about getting
Yeah.
switched off. Literally, the camera just got switched off.
That's, yeah.
All right, last question, I guess. This is from We Get It. We'll hurry up.
Yeah.
This is from Gina. Gina asks, if the woman returned, I'm assuming the woman you interacted with or one of the two, and offered you one answer about what happened, what would you ask? One answer.
This, my kids won't like this.
Hmm.
What's happened to the child? I'd want to know, because I did have an experience where I did meet that person,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really weird situation where it was like we're on a craft, but the craft had like a patio, and it was outside the craft where we were sitting, and the table was half as wide as this table, and this 14-year-old, like pale skin, short hair, short hair. It was a female, beautiful features, and she did it to me, and in turn got me to reach over. She put her hands out, and I reached over, and she held my hands. Yeah, and I couldn't help that strong feeling that was my child. Yeah, and I find it hard to talk about because it did affect my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
And there was one time where I heard the female's voice say to me, and it was probably about 12, 14 years later, and I heard her say, your child is beautiful. Your daughter is beautiful. And I knew she was talking about
wow.
her daughter, not my
Yeah.
human daughter, because she had nothing to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I clearly understood when she said that who she was talking about.
Whew. Again, that's not the first time I've heard, things of that nature. I've spoken to multiple people. Aside from all the cases I've read, I've spoken to people who have, openly talked to me about this experience as well, about a meeting.
Yeah.
About them presenting.
Yeah.
I
knew, I had no doubt.
In every case that I've heard it was the child that wanted the meeting.
Yeah. That's the impression I got, and that's why she reached out first.
Yeah, like the grown-ups, so to speak, are reluctant to even let that happen.
Yeah.
But the child, for whatever part of their development, needed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the exact same thing I've heard over and over again. Ah, man.
Yeah, I just want to know that she's okay.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, you've been an absolute gentleman and just an open book, and I really, really, truly appreciate you coming here and talking to me about this stuff and getting the word out, man.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I just do this to hopefully reach out to people who have had experiences like mine and are just too scared to talk about it or feel like they'll be ridiculed.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about that,
Yeah.
Just tell your story. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you telling yours, and I agree. If you're out there, there's support groups out there, and there's ways to get in touch with people who've gone through similar things, and hopefully, through these type of programs, the word gets out a little bit more, and people destigmatize this stuff, and at least allow people to talk about it in a judgment-free area. We're not asking you to believe, not asking you to not believe.
Yeah.
Just how about just suspend all of that and just allow people to say what they want to say in a judgment-free environment. And that way we can maybe start piecing together a hypothesis
Yeah.
and finding answers.
Look, I have a bit of an issue with people who claim that for the last 20 years, maybe 30 years, they've been claiming that disclosure's around the corner. And I had Stephen Bassett as a guest in my house, and we had about 50 researchers, invite only, as just as guests to sit in and listen to him. And I remember him saying, within the next 6 months, everybody in the world's going to know the truth. And I remember saying to him in front of everyone, I've been holding my breath for a while. I'm not going to hold it anymore, because I don't expect anything's going to happen. Governments aren't going to tell us the truth unless the aliens decide it's time. That's when it'll happen. The last thing government want to do is open this can of worms for them, because then there's litigation, there's, abusing people and neglecting people, and there'll be class actions, legal actions, and so on. So yeah, someone recently was saying that people are making quotes in the next couple of weeks we'll know something. And for me, it's been 33 years since the 92 experience. And I hear it all the time, and I just think maybe humanity is ready, but the government thinks we're not.
Well, with all due respect, fuck them. I don't really care. You're not going to, disclosure isn't something you present in a redacted file. It's not something you get from scripture.
That's right.
It's a personal journey.
Yeah.
And it takes time. For some people, they get ontological shock. But for the most of us, it's about destigmatizing. It's about talking about it, opening up the conversation, and making it so that when you're near the water cooler at work, you're going to be like, hey, did you watch that podcast? Really interesting guy that came on. He was talking about some cool shit. Versus, oh no, that's crazy talk. Like that, I think, is disclosure. I think just opening up the conversation to where we're comfortable talking about it, that is a huge leap.
Definitely.
And if we can just do that, then maybe whenever it does happen, maybe most of us won't even be surprised.
I've had people tell me they don't believe in the topic at all, but because they know me and they've known me, worked with me for years and so on, they believe, because they know Peter I wouldn't lie about this. I wouldn't tell a story. Like, why would I?
Yeah.
What benefit do I get out of this? I've never made money out of it. I'm not rich. If anything, I'm going to lose my house and have to downgrade and move somewhere else. And if I was in it for money, I wouldn't care. I'd pay out my ex and I'd have enough money to buy a better place than what I'm in even, but it was never about that with me. And I think that's why people believe my story, because I was never about trying, to sell it and make money. And I've done thousands of interviews and I've never charged for an interview. The only thing I recuperate is when I went to Japan, for example, had to take time off work. They covered that, which I think was about $1,000, nothing more.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm on the talk circuit, lecture circuit, and I'm traveling and making money and that. It's not about that for me.
Clearly not.
I just want to share my story to reach the people who are having experiences and just don't have the courage to speak about it. And maybe I'll give them the strength to say, if he can do it, I can do it. That's my main aim.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.